Chapter 593. Actually, Chu Xiu already had some guesses about Mei Qinglian's goal. And after hearing Mr. Lu talk about Mei Qinglian's life experience, he could roughly guess that everything Mei Qinglian did was for her former sect, the Yin Demon sect. Even if Mei Qinglian did not want to be a sect master and only wanted to be a saintess, she was the only one left in the Yin Demon sect. This burden had to be borne by Mei Qinglian. This request was not excessive in Chu Xiu's eyes. Mei Qinglian actually had no interest in power from the beginning. This could be seen from the way she addressed him. Now that the Yin Demon sect only had Mei Qinglian left, she should normally say that she was the sect master. But in reality, whether it was Chu Xiu or Mr. Lu, she had asked them to address her as saintess. Therefore, Mei Qinglian actually wanted to be a saintess from the bottom of her heart. Chu Xiu also looked at Mei Qinglian and said in a deep voice, "Saintess, you have been in the pugilistic world for so many years. You should know that things like promises are unreliable, regardless of whether they are good or evil." Mei Qinglian slightly raised her eyebrows. At this time, shouldn't Chu Xiu say that she was reliable? He actually said the opposite. You mean that the promises of others are unreliable and the promises of you, Chu Xiu, are also unreliable? Didn't you always say that you are trustworthy? Chu Xiu casually waved his hand and said, "Keeping promises also depends on the occasion. In the face of benefits, any promises are unreliable. If there are benefits for me to stand with saintess, then I can naturally be relied on. On the other hand, if there are no benefits, why should I harm saintess?" In the Hidden Devil clan, although the Yin Demon sect only exists in name, their connections are still there. If I harm you, Lady Holy Maiden, I will definitely not have a place in the Hidden Devil clan. Furthermore, after experiencing the great battle between the righteous and demonic paths on Floating Jade Mountain, the people of the Yinma clan should know that I was supported by the saintess and Mr. Lu. If I were to harm the saintess, that would be repaying kindness with enmity, and that would be heartless and unjust. Even if they were from the demonic Tao, they could be ruthless to outsiders and disregard morality. But when it came to their own people, they believed that no one would be willing to work together with a villain who repaid kindness with enmity. In the face of benefits, I will only stand with you, saintess. I will not choose to harm you. So, saintess, you don't have to choose to believe in me. You just need to choose to believe in the benefits. That's enough." Hearing Chu Xiu say so much, Mei Qinglian could not help but snort softly. She said, "Chu Xiu, your sophistry is not inferior to your strength." Although Mei Qinglian said that Chu Xiu was sophistry, she could not help but agree with Chu Xiu's view. Harming her would not benefit Chu Xiu. Unless Chu Xiu was an idiot who was used to harming others to his own detriment, there was no reason for him to harm her. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "This is not sophistry but the truth. Saintess, what do you plan to do with Guan Xiu for now?" Chu Xiu vaguely remembered that in the original plot, there seemed to be a huge change in the Guanzhong torture room. Could this huge change be related to Mei Qinglian? Chu Xiu carefully recalled the plot. He wanted to see if Guan Xiu had died in this huge change and if he would be affected by the butterfly effect again. But as he thought about it, Chu Xiu's expression suddenly changed and became very ugly. This was because he could not remember any details about the plot. When he had decided to join the Guanzhong torture room, Chu Xiu had specially noted down a few major events in the Guanzhong torture room. But now Chu Xiu could not remember them at all. This kind of thing was very normal for ordinary people. There were so many things who could remember all of them, big or small. But when it happened to Chu Xiu, this kind of thing could be said to be strange, extremely strange. One had to know that Chu Xiu had already reached the realm of the unity of heaven and man. Although he did not have a photographic memory, it was not bad. At the very least, with the support of his powerful mental strength, his memory was dozens or even hundreds of times better than ordinary people. He had been in the Guanzhong torture room, and he would never forget the memory of the Guanzhong torture room. However, the fact was that he had indeed forgotten it. He had completely forgotten it and he could not remember it no matter how hard he tried. But this was not the most terrifying thing. Chu Xiu also tried to recall other familiar plots just now, but he was shocked to find that most of the plots had become very vague. He remembered a certain time and place that a major event would happen, but he could not remember the specific details of that event, especially those related to people. With Chu Xiu's memory, this was absolutely impossible, especially when it was related to the original plot. These were Chu Xiu's trump cards, and the place where Chu Xiu settled down. He could forget everything else but he could not forget these. But now he had forgotten it. Chu Xiu was sure that there was definitely a problem with him. Moreover, Chu Xiu carefully combed through his memories. Except for some memories about the original plot, he could not even remember some of the memories before his rebirth. But his memories of this life were very clear in his mind, which was very unreasonable. Now, Chu Xiu's thoughts were mainly based on the thoughts of Chu Xiu's previous life, not this life. So even if his memories were vague, they should be vague memories of this life. Why were such important memories of his previous life blurred? Mei Qinglian was just about to speak when she saw that Chu Xiu had fallen into this state of sluggishness, or even a dazed state. She could not help but ask, "Chu Xiu, what's wrong with you? What are you thinking about? Why are you so obsessed?" Chu Xiu was awakened by Mei Qinglian's words. He said to Mei Qinglian in a deep voice, "Saintess, please use the Qinyu Great Technique to check my spirit and primordial spirit to see if there are any abnormalities." In the Jianghu, Chu Xiu rarely fought with people who were also proficient in primordial spirit secret techniques. Therefore, the possibility of him being seriously injured by primordial spirit secret techniques or being secretly plotted against was very small. However, he still had to wait for Mei Qinglian to check before he could make a decision. The Qinyu Great Technique of the Yin Demon sect was not considered a primordial spirit secret technique, but its power in primordial spirit was even more terrifying than that of martial artists who specialized in this path. Mei Qinglian said in surprise, "You were plotted against by someone in Xiafanshan with a primordial spirit secret technique?" Mei Qinglian knew that Chu Xiu's attainments in primordial spirit mental power were definitely far greater than most martial Dao masters, and even similar to her. If someone silently left a hidden injury on Chu Xiu's primordial spirit, how terrifying would this person's cultivation be? Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "I'm not sure either, so I wanted to let the saintess check to confirm it." As he spoke, Chu Xiu took the initiative to open his mind and let Mei Qinglian use the Qinyu Great Technique to check. Mei Qinglian nodded, and a rhythm bloomed out, seeping into Chu Xiu's mind. After a while, Mei Qinglian shook her head and said, "Your primordial spirit is very strong. There is no damage at all. There is no problem. Of course, there is also the possibility that someone buried the hidden danger in the deepest part of your primordial spirit. However, even with my strength I couldn't detect it. That person's strength is definitely not a martial Dao master, but a true fire spirit refinement expert who specializes in mental power." Chu Xiu frowned. If that was the case, then it would be really troublesome. He was sure that there was definitely something wrong with his current state, but he couldn't find what was wrong. In fact, the blurred memory of the original plot was not that bad for Chu Xiu now. Chu Xiu had influenced too many things in the past few years, which also led to most things related to people having a butterfly effect under the influence of Chu Xiu. In the original plot, the Guanzhong torture room suffered a great change, and no one knew whether that great change would happen again or not. However, this matter was like a dark cloud, shrouding Chu Xiu's heart for a while. A powerful existence was actually not scary. What was really scary was the unknown. Mei Qinglian waved her hand casually and said, "Okay, don't think about these things. Are you under too much pressure in Xiaofan? Have you not recovered yet? You have finished your closed-door training here. Senior Wei Shia wants you to go. He has a good thing for you." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "Good thing? What good thing? Don't ask so much. You'll know when you get there." With that, Mei Qinglian pulled Chu Xiu away. Chu Xiu said in surprise, "You're going too? How are you going to explain Guanxiu?" Mei Qinglian waved her hand casually and said, "You don't have to worry about me. I have my own way of dealing with Guanxiu." Hearing Mei Qinglian say this, Chu Xiu didn't ask any more questions. He concealed his aura and followed Mei Qinglian out of Guanxi. They arrived at the border between Guanxi and West Chu. Late at night, Mei Qinglian brought Chu Xiu to a large house. A wisp of aura bloomed, and the door immediately opened. Mr. Lu walked out. Seeing Chu Xiu and Mei Qinglian, Mr. Lu nodded and said, "Senior Wei has been waiting for you for a long time. Come in." This house was just an ordinary merchant's house in name. The owner and servants inside were all ordinary people. However, when they saw Chu Xiu and the others walk over, it was as if they were looking at air. They weren't surprised at all and ignored them. Mr. Lu opened a secret door and brought Chu Xiu and Mei Qinglian underground. There was a world underground in this house, and it was even larger than the surface. At this moment, in a large hall underground, Wei Shuya was holding a cup of tea with his eyes closed, as if he was going to fall asleep at any moment. With his old appearance, no one would think that he was an expert at the peak of the true fire spirit refinement realm. Beside him was Chu Wuji. Chu Wuji didn't sit properly. He crossed his legs and played with a nimble white-browed parrot in his hand. When he saw Mei Qinglian come in, the white-browed parrot immediately shouted in a sharp voice, "Beauty! Beauty!" Chu Wuji also laughed and said, "It's Xiaoyan. We haven't seen each other for many years. I miss you so much. Mei Qinglian raised her eyebrows and said, Chu Wuji, if you keep talking nonsense, do you believe that I won't strangle your bird? Chapter 594. Among the Yinma clan, most of them were old acquaintances. Almost all of them had worked together before. Chu Wuji had known Mei Qinglian for a long time. He also knew Mei Qinglian's character. Hearing this, Chu Wuji immediately put away the white-browed parrot in his hand. Otherwise Mei Qinglian would really strangle his bird. Chu Xiu cupped his hands and said, Greetings, Senior Wei, Senior Chu. Chu Wuji subconsciously touched his mustache and looked at Chu Xiu up and down. He said, Not bad. You're much more promising than I was. You occupy 2 of the top 3 places on the Longhu list. You're the only one in the history of the Longhu list. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, It's true that I'm the only one, but I dare not compare myself with Senior Chu. Although Chu Xiu was now the first on the Longhu list, Chu Xiu was not so arrogant that he could look down on everyone. When Chu Wuji was young, he might not be worse than him. In the past, Chu Wuji was only ranked 5th. However, Chu Wuji secretly joined the Yinma clan. During this period, his strength was almost a blank. When he appeared in Jianghu, Chu Wuji was already a martial Dao Grand Master. Naturally, he could not continue to stay on the Longhu list. Therefore, Chu Wuji directly became a martial Dao Grand Master from the 5th on the Longhu list. If not for this blank period, it would not be difficult for Chu Wuji to become the first on the Longhu list within 10 years. At this time, Wei Shuya slowly put down the tea in his hand. He looked at Chu Xiu and nodded. He said, Chu Xiu, you did a good job this time. You even killed a little cow's nose from the Chunyang Dao sect. It's so satisfying. Wei Shuya did not care whether Chu Xiu became number 1 on the Longhu leaderboard or not. At his level, looking at the Longhu leaderboard was like watching a joke. It was just a bunch of youngsters fooling around. There was no need to care about the leaderboard. This matter was not as important as Chu Xiu killing Jin Yangzi. Wei Shuya did not talk nonsense with Chu Xiu. He put down the teacup and said with a serious expression, Chu Xiu, you actually do not have a deep relationship with the Yinma clan. However, you have become the spokesperson of the Yinma clan in Jianghu. Even some of the older generation of Devil Dao martial artists are not as famous as you. You were recommended by Mei Las and Lu Jin. Even Chu Xiu spoke highly of you. I believe that it is difficult to find someone more outstanding than you in the Yinma clan, or even in the entire Devil Dao. Therefore, I do not care about your previous identity. I only want to ask you one thing. Are you willing to join the Devil Dao? Are you willing to carry the banner of the Kunlun Devil cult, which is seen as a thorn in the side by countless righteous sects? If you are willing, I can help you fight for everything that the Yinma clan can give you. However, if you are not willing, I will not make things difficult for you for the sake of our past friendship. From now on, Lin Yi is a dead man. There is only Chu Xiu in Jianghu. As long as you do not reveal any flaws, no one will know your true identity. The choice is now in your hands. It is up to you to decide how you will choose. Chu Xiu did not even think about it and said directly, In the past, I did not have a deep relationship with the Yinma clan. However, now that I have become Lin Yi of the Yinma clan, this relationship can be said to be very deep. Chu Xiu is me and Lin Yi is also me. Mei Qinglian and the others thought that Chu Xiu was expressing his attitude. In fact, Chu Xiu was saying that he was himself. Chu Xiu was him and Lin Yi was also him. In the beginning, Chu Xiu actually did not want to rely on the Devil Dao. In the original plot, he could no longer replicate the path that he had taken. Moreover, even if Chu Xiu wanted to replicate it, he did not know what he had experienced in the original plot. Therefore, for the original Chu Xiu, he only pursued the capital to survive and the power that he possessed. He did not even think about relying on the Devil Dao. However, fate made fools of people. It was unknown whether it was fate or karma. In the end, Chu Xiu still had a relationship with the Devil Dao. Even now, his karma with the Yinma clan had deepened. Even if he did not want to carry the banner of reviving the Kunlun Devil cult, he still had to carry it. When they heard Chu Xiu's words, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief, especially Lu Jin and Mei Qinglian. The 2 of them were on good terms with Chu Xiu. If Chu Xiu chose to give up in the end, it would not only prove that they did not know him well, but it would also increase the risk of being exposed. For some people, especially those of the Yinma clan who had always been hiding in the dark, if they could not be friends with a living person, they could only be friends with a dead person. Wei Shuya nodded with satisfaction and said, Since that's the case, then sit down. Chu Xiu boy, I have something for you to do this time and the reward is very simple. Take it as a meeting gift from me. It's an opportunity for you to accumulate a lot of fame and power in a short period of time in the Yinma clan. What opportunity? Wei Shuya's old, blurry eyes flashed with astonishment. He said coldly, "A chance to avenge the 5 great sky devils of the 9th heaven mountain." Chushio was shocked. The Yinma clan wants to make a move against the entire righteous pugilistic world? Although the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain had been eliminated, they had stirred up a lot of power. After the Kunlun devil cult, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain were the first devil Dao faction that many righteous sects had joined forces to kill. In terms of strength, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain and their subordinates combined were not as strong as the current moon-worshipping cult. However, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain had made the righteous pugilistic world fearful because they had seen the power of the revival of the devil Dao. A single spark could start a prairie fire. Back then, the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain were that spark. Therefore, they had to be completely extinguished before the prairie fire started. However, although the 5 great sky demons of 9th heaven mountain had been defeated, their devil Dao alliance was not meaningless. At the very least, when the devil Dao was at its weakest, it was Wei Shuya and the others who had told the devil Dao disciples in the pugilistic world that the devil Dao still had the power to fight. It was also because of that battle that Wei Shuya and the others rebuilt the devil Dao's backbone that had been broken after the battle with the Kunlun devil cult. It was very meaningful. Even though Wei Shuya had not reached the true fire spirit refining realm, his position in the devil Dao was actually comparable to that of the true fire spirit refining realm. Wei Shuya waved his hand and said, "I believe that sooner or later, the devil Dao will make a move against the righteous pugilistic world. However, now is not the time. I'm not that crazy. If I make a move now, it will not be an opportunity for you. Instead, it will be sending you to your death." As he said that, Wei Shuya laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "To put it bluntly, the devil Dao is still no match for the righteous Dao sections. It is not a big deal to be a little cowardly. Only an idiot would charge forward knowing that they are no match for them." At the side, Chu Wuji said faintly, "Back in the 9 heaven mountain, you and the other 4 seniors also knew that you were no match for them, but you still did it." Wei Shuya said lightly, "That was a special case. If the world was filled with smart people, then no matter which faction it was, it would be like a plate of loose sand. Sometimes, a force needs someone to be that idiot. Even if it means losing his life, it's worth it." Wei Shuya waved his hand casually and said, "All right, let's not talk about these old things. Let's talk about serious matters. Chushio, kid, I am not asking you to deal with the righteous Dao sections. Now, the Yinma clan does not have the power to seek revenge on them. The revenge I am talking about is the small factions that participated in the battle against the 9 heaven mountain in the past. In the past, when the righteous Dao sects attacked the 9 heaven mountain, countless small factions attached themselves to them and hit the devil Dao alliance while we were down. They took our heads to the righteous Dao sects to exchange for rewards and reputation. In that battle, the top combat power of the 9 heaven mountain was killed by the righteous Dao sections. However, most of the low-level disciples died at the hands of these people. Now, this group of people has used the resources and benefits obtained from that battle to develop their reputation. Now it is time for them to pay the price." As he said that, a cold light flashed in Wei Shuya's eyes. Suddenly, the temperature in the hall dropped a little. In the past, the 5 great sky demons of the 9 heaven mountain had formed the devil Dao alliance. How grand was that? In the end, they were all defeated overnight. Of the 5 great sky demons, only he who was the weakest and the youngest was left. He had struggled at death's door until today. All these years, of course, Wei Shuya had hatred in his heart. However, he had endured it because it was not the time for revenge. But now the devil Dao was on the rise. The bright demon clan was led by the moon-worshipping cult. They had even recruited disciples in the Jianghu with great fanfare to resist the righteous Dao sections. Although the Yinma clan was keeping a low profile for the time being, they could not remain silent. Wei Shuya looked at Chushio and said, "Chushio, kid, I will give you a list. At the same time, I will also give you some people. According to the power on this list, I will eliminate them one by one. I don't care about the process, I only care about the results. 300 years ago, these small factions were not ranked in the Jianghu. But 300 years later, with the benefits they gained from that battle, some of them are no longer what they used to be. However, I believe that with your strength, it will not be a problem to solve these problems. After it is done, I will gather the Yinma clan to celebrate for you. You will be the first person of the Yinma clan's younger generation." Chushio nodded. He cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, "Thank you, Senior Wei." Chushio should indeed say thank you. This time, Wei Shuya had given him a great opportunity. The 5 great sky demons of the 9th heaven mountain were very important to the Yinma clan. Now that Chu Xiu had taken the lead to take revenge for the 5 great sky demons of the 9th Heaven Mountain, his reputation and prestige would be immeasurable. Moreover, after this, Wei Shuya would gather the entire Yinma clan to celebrate for him. This was almost like Wei Shuya supporting Chu Xiu and confirming his status in the Yinma clan. From now on, Lin Yi would be the direct descendant of the Kunlun devil cult. There was no longer any doubt. Chapter 595. Wei Shuya said that he wanted to give some people to Chu Xiu, but he didn't want to give Chu Xiu all the elites of the Hidden Devil clan. There were many forces in the Hidden Devil clan, and their interests were complicated. Not to mention that those people wouldn't listen to Chu Xiu, some of them wouldn't even listen to Wei Shuya. For example, Mr. Lu was a member of the Phaseless Demon sect, and he had a good relationship with Wei Shuya. Even the whole Phaseless Demon sect had a good relationship with Wei Shuya. However, relationships were relationships. Once it involved interest, they had to be more cautious. Therefore, Wei Shuya didn't use other people, but found a group of rogue cultivators of the Hidden Devil clan. The composition of this group of rogue cultivators was very complicated. Some of them were rogue cultivators who had obtained demonic cultivation methods, and naturally joined the demonic path. Some of them were the descendants of some survivors of the 9 Heaven Demonic Alliance, and they all respected Wei Shuya. The most difficult part was those warriors who, for various reasons, had no choice but to fall into the demonic path, or were forced into the demonic path by those righteous sections. These people were not weak, and some of them even had a good reputation in the Jianghu. All of them were eccentric and unruly. Wei Shuya handed these people over to Chu Xiu on the one hand to give him strength and on the other hand to let Chu Xiu integrate these people, and condense them into a force instead of a plate of loose sand. Of course, there was no consideration in this. Wei Shuya believed in Chu Xiu. If Chu Xiu couldn't even handle such a small matter, then what qualifications did he have to complete this task? Therefore, Wei Shuya didn't go with Chu Xiu himself, but asked Chu Wuji to take Chu Xiu there. As for Mr. Lu and Mei Qinglian, their identities were special. One belonged to the Yin Demon sect, while the other belonged to the Phaseless Demon sect. After Wei Shuya gave them some instructions, he let them all leave. The underground stronghold of the Hidden Devil clan was not small. As Chu Wuji led Chu Xiu to the place where those people were, he said with a smile, "Senior Wei really thinks highly of you, but he's also very careless. He actually gathered those guys together and let you lead them. Anyway, you have to be careful later. Don't think that you have the strength to fight against a martial Dao Grandmaster, and you're ranked 3rd on the Longhu list in the demonic Dao, but those guys might not buy it." Taking a deep look at Chu Xiu, Chu Wuji said blandly, "I was one of them." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "Senior Chu, with your strength, when you joined the Diabolism, you were not cultivated and put in an important position?" Chu Wuji said blandly, "The Diabolism is not a charity. Those righteous sects are right about one thing. Most of the Diabolism are ruthless and ruthless. The more strength you can show, the more benefits you can bring to others, the more treatment you will get. When I first joined the Hidden Demon sect, many sects of the Hidden Demon lineage extended an olive branch to me, but these sects did not come for me. They came from my ranking on the Longhu list, for my identity as a member of the royal family of the Wei Kingdom, so that they could use this identity to do something. To put it bluntly, they are only using my identity. The reason I want to join the demonic path is to pursue great power, not to help others. So I refuse them. Among the people you are about to lead, those who were sent to the Diabolism because they cultivated the Diabolism are easy to manage. They are the descendants of the Diabolism Alliance in the 9 Heavens Mountain. The hardest to manage are people like me. I have strength, a temper, and I don't want my freedom to be restricted. My temper is extremely eccentric. It is not easy to convince them." Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and nodded. Since Chu Wuji said so, it proved that this group of people was really hard to deal with. However, Chu Xiu did not say much. He just said blandly, "Then can I kill people?" Chu Wuji looked at Chu Xiu with a faint smile. He knew that Chu Xiu's murderous nature was not ordinary. Moreover, Chu Xiu was not a bloodthirsty person. For him, killing was just the simplest method to achieve his goal. Having been in the Diabolism for so many years, Chu Wuji had seen all kinds of bloodthirsty demons and murderers who killed without batting an eye. However, these people had all fallen to the lower hand. Don't be fooled by their ferocious appearance and claim to have countless blood stains on their hands. However, they could not compare to Chu Xiu. These were just pitiful people who were controlled by killing intent. Killing intent was just an emotion. They could not even control themselves, so how could they not be pitiful? On the contrary, people like Chu Xiu who saw killing as a tool and did everything to achieve their goals and benefits, were the most terrifying. Such people sometimes would not kill with their own hands, but a word or a decision from them could bury countless lives. Chu Wuji said blandly, I can't tell you whether you can kill people or not. You need to think about it yourself. In any case, whether it is me or Senior Wei, we ultimately look at the results. If you can get things done by killing people, then go ahead and kill. On the contrary, if you cause any trouble because of killing people, then you have to bear the consequences yourself. Chu Xiu nodded in understanding. Chu Wuji pointed to a closed hall in front of him and said, the people arranged by Senior Wei are all inside. Get ready and go in. At this time there were more than 300 people squeezed inside the hall. There were old and young people in this group and they were dressed strangely. However, it was certain that this group of people was very strong. Among the 300 people, the weakest was at the Three-Flower Realm, and the strongest was at the Unity of Heaven and Man Realm. Among them, there were more than 30 martial artists at the Unity of Heaven and Man Realm. This number was even more than some of the weaker sects in the 7 sects and 8 schools, such as the Azure Water Sword sect and the Ba Mountain Sword sect. At this time the hall was in a mess. Some people were whispering, some were making noise, and some were cursing. There were only 10 chairs in the hall and only 10 people were sitting there. There were blood stains on the ground, as well as a few pale-faced people who were recovering from their injuries with resentment on their faces. Clearly, before Chu Xiu had arrived, this group of unruly people had already fought. Furthermore, they had fought over something as senseless as fighting over seats. At this time on the seat, a thin martial artist in his 40s wearing a black robe with triangular eyes said, Luo Sansong, Zhao Qingping and everyone else, don't just sit there. Tell me, why did Senior Wei ask us to come this time? To make us all listen to the words of a junior? This is simply a joke. This person was playing with a golden scorpion in his hand. It looked very agile, but if one looked closely, they would find that the scorpion's tail was as black as ink. It was obviously highly poisonous. This martial artist was the famous poisonous gentleman Tao Gongwang in the Devil Dao. In fact, to be precise, this person did not cultivate the Devil Dao but the Poison Dao. However, in the eyes of most people in the Jianghu, this kind of evil thing belonged to the Devil Dao, so Tao Gongwang was also included in the Devil Dao. This person had wandered in the Jianghu for more than 10 years. Although he was ruthless, he was also cunning. Therefore, even though he had offended many people, he had always been safe and sound. However, he could only blame his bad luck. A few years ago, he used human blood to raise poisonous insects in the land of West Chu and ran into the hands of little celestial master Zhang Qingzhen. He was almost killed by Zhang Qingzhen's 5 Thunder technique. Fortunately, he had more life-saving items, so he escaped with his life. From then on, Tao Gongwang joined the Hidden Devil clan and began to keep a low profile. He did not dare to go too far. This time, Wei Shiya asked them to gather together and listen to Chu Xiu's orders to avenge the 9 Heaven Demonic Dao Alliance. In fact, Tao Gongwang refused in his heart. In Tao Gongwang's opinion, although Lin Yi was strong and ranked 3rd on the Longhu list, he was still a junior. When Tao Gongwang became famous in the Jianghu, Lin Yi was still a child. Now that he was asked to listen to the other party's orders, Tao Gongwang naturally resisted. Of course, these were all secondary. After all, people under the eaves had to bow their heads. Lin Yi had a big backer like Wei Shiya, so it was fine for him to listen. However, he really did not want to be enemies with the righteous Dao anymore. A few years ago, he was scared by Zhang Qingzhen, which left a shadow in his heart. It was because of this fear that Tao Gongwang joined the Hidden Devil clan to seek protection. When he first joined the Hidden Devil clan, he wanted to keep a low profile. In the end, even the Hidden Devil clan did not keep a low profile anymore, so he was naturally unwilling. Strictly speaking, he was not a member of the Hidden Devil clan. What did the 9 Heaven Demonic Dao Alliance's vengeance have to do with him? He would definitely find an opportunity later to push this matter away completely. He did not care about the others, but he did not want to go. Luo Sansong was a strong man sitting at the head of the table. His muscles were bulging and his appearance was masculine, as if he was cast from steel. In his hand, there was a ferocious-looking blood-colored beheading knife with a ghost's head. It was half the height of a person, and it was stained with black and purple blood rust, making it look extremely fierce. Blood-mad saber, Luo Sansong was not a standard Hidden Devil clan warrior. He was a rogue cultivator, but he was reckless and liked to fight. His personality was also a little violent, so he had offended many people in the Jianghu. After offending some ordinary warriors, Luo Sansong became stronger the more he fought. However, he had once inadvertently offended many of the warriors of the younger generation of the 9 great clans during the gathering of the younger generation. Thus he was hated and hunted down. For someone of Ing Bailu's status, even if Luo Sansong had offended him, it was impossible for him to hunt down a rogue cultivator with great fanfare. However, some of the disciples of the other aristocratic families were narrow-minded, so Luo Sansong was chased miserably by them. She was almost forced into a desperate situation. In the end, she was rescued by an expert of the Hidden Devil clan, so she successfully joined the Hidden Devil clan. Chapter 596. The people of Diabolism all had their own thoughts. In fact, the entire lineage had never been monolithic. Not everyone wanted to avenge those who died in the 9 Heavenly Mountain Diabolism Alliance. Therefore Wei Shia let Chu Xiu lead these people and sort them out. Compared to Tao Gongwang's many thoughts, Luo Sansong's thoughts were much simpler. Luo Sansong sneered and said, "Tao Gongwang, you have the most trivial matters. Junior? What's wrong with Junior? Strictly speaking, my seniority is still lower than yours. Why you don't accept me? Why don't we have a fight?" Tao Gongwang was speechless by Luo Sansong's infuriation. He snorted and said, "This is not a matter of seniority. My Yinma lineage has been hiding in the dark for so many years. In the end, Senior Wei let a junior with little experience lead us to provoke the righteous path. Have you considered the danger of this matter?" Luo Sansong waved his hand and snorted, "Consider my ass. I don't care if it's the righteous path or the diabolism. As long as that kid is strong enough, I will kill whoever he asks me to kill. On the other hand, if that kid is not my match, then he can't control who I want to kill." Tao Gongwang had no way to deal with Luo Sansong, so he turned his gaze to Zhao Qingping. Compared to the two of them, Zhao Qingping was much more normal. Zhao Qingping was a middle-aged man in a black robe with a cold expression. When the others began to argue, he sat there alone without saying a word. At this time, seeing Tao Gongwang's gaze, Zhao Qingping just said lightly, "I don't know Lin Yi, and I don't know whether it's good or bad for my Yinma lineage to take the initiative to attack those righteous path sections. I only know that this matter was ordered by Senior Wei. Lin Yi was also chosen by Senior Wei. I only believe in Senior Wei. I believe that Senior Wei will not be wrong." Compared to Tao Gongwang and Luo Santong, Zhao Qingping was from the orthodox diabolism. In the past, his ancestors followed Wei Shuya to the 9 Heavenly Mountain, but they were killed in that battle. Zhao Qingping's lineage had always been protected by Wei Shuya. Therefore, no matter what Wei Shuya said, Zhao Qingping would do as he was told. To him, Wei Shuya was no different from his patriarch. Seeing Zhao Qingping's attitude, Tao Gongwang stopped talking nonsense with him. Instead, he turned his gaze to the others and discussed the plan with them. Although this group of people could be considered part of the Hidden Devil clan, in reality they all had their own thoughts. Some of it was because of their personalities like Luo Sansong. But there were also many people like Tao Gongwang who had their own plans. Just when everyone was discussing enthusiastically, the door was pushed open, and Chu Wuji walked in with Chu Xiu, who had already put on a mask. The noisy lobby instantly quietened down. Chu Wuji's prestige was quite great in the Yinma clan. He was the martial arts master who was closest to the true fire spirit refinement realm. Even the arrogant Luo Sansong did not dare to disrespect him. Chu Wuji looked around and said indifferently, "I'm sure everyone knows why Senior Wei has gathered all of you here. This is Lin Yi, a young talent of my Yinma clan. I won't care about what happens next. Leave it to Lin Yi to handle. You guys can continue talking." After saying that, Chu Wuji turned around and left, leaving Chu Xiu alone. Although Wei Shuya did not say that it was a test, in Chu Wuji's opinion, it was actually the first test for Chu Xiu. If he could not even deal with this group of guys, Chu Xiu was not worthy of his current position. Seeing that Chu Wuji had left so decisively, everyone present was stunned. Then they whispered to each other. Some of them even secretly discussed something through voice transmission. They did not show any respect for Chu Xiu. There were many arrogant and unruly people in the Diabolism clan. Not to mention that Chu Xiu was not a martial arts master and did not have that many qualifications. Even if Chu Xiu became a martial arts master, these people might not be convinced. They had been so respectful to Chu Wuji previously because of the reputation and prestige that Chu Wuji had accumulated in the Yinma clan over the past few decades. As for Chu Xiu, his reputation in the Jianghu and his ranking on the Longhu list were not enough to completely suppress the Diabolism martial artists present. Looking at everyone present, Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "Everyone, I think you should have heard of my name, Lin Yi." Hearing this, someone immediately sneered in a low voice. There was a hint of disdain in their tone. They had heard of Lin Ye's name, but Lin Yi had said it right in front of them. He was a little too arrogant. However, Chu Xiu then said indifferently, "Of course, it doesn't matter if you haven't heard of it. Now that you've heard of it, please don't forget it. I don't think I need to repeat why Senior Wei Shia gathered all of you here. What's going to happen next is actually very simple. I don't need you to use your brains. All you need to do is use your knives to kill. You'll kill whoever I say. It's very simple, isn't it?" As his words rang out, a sliver of dissatisfaction appeared on everyone's faces. Wasn't this Lin Yi a little too arrogant? Although they had to admit that Lin Yi was indeed powerful and had even killed the martial arts grandmaster Jin Yangzi of the Chunyang Dao sect, their seniority was obvious. Most of the people present were more experienced and had a higher seniority than Lin Yi. Lin Yi did not even say anything modest. Instead, he directly spoke in such a commanding tone. If this wasn't arrogance, then what was? Gong Wang sneered in his heart when he saw Chu Xiu's attitude. Previously, he had thought that Lin Yi was someone special. Since he was ranked third on the Longhu list, he would definitely not be that bad. Now, it seemed that Lin Yi's strength aside, he was arrogant and brainless. There was no need to worry about him. Tao Gongwang stepped forward and coughed. "Young friend Lin, I'm 1 generation older than you, so it's not wrong for me to call you young friend. It's true that Senior Wei Shuya called all of us here and told us that it's not wrong to listen to your instructions this time. However, this doesn't mean that we have to hand over our lives to you. Young friend Lin, are you clear about the current situation of the Yinma clan? If you rashly bring us to the righteous sects to cause trouble, we'll be in danger once the top forces of the righteous sects intervene. The Yinma clan has been keeping a low profile for so long. Even if Senior Wei Shuya decides to take action against the righteous sects, he has to wait for a long-term plan before taking action. He shouldn't act rashly now." Tao Gongwang was a wily old fox in the Jianghu. He was quite good at scheming. On the surface, he did not directly refute Wei Shuya's words, but he was persuading Chu Xiu to take a long-term plan. As for how long this long-term plan would take, it was not certain. When they discussed until Lin Yi was punished by Lord Wei Shuya because of his incompetence, his goal would be achieved for the time being. This was an overt plot. If Lin Yi agreed, he could stall for time. If Chu Xiu did not agree, he would definitely be resisted by most of the martial artists present. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and looked at Tao Gongwang. "In that case, you don't want to avenge those seniors who sacrificed for the 9 Heavenly Mountain Demon Dao Alliance back then?" Tao Gongwang hurriedly said, "Don't talk nonsense. Everyone here can testify that I've never said such a thing." "You didn't say it, but that's what you think in your heart." Chu Xiu coldly snorted and said, "Tao Gongwang, I know you. In the past, you were almost killed by Zhang Qingjin's 5 Thunders technique in West Chu. You escaped from Zhang Qingjin's hands, but you were also chased by the Celestial Master Mansion. It was the Yinma clan that took you in. For people like you, if it wasn't for the Yinma clan's protection, you would have already been killed by others. How could you have the chance to talk nonsense here? The Yinma clan has done you a favor, but now you are making excuses and refusing to do things for the Yinma clan. You are ungrateful. Also, who are you calling little friend? Do you have the qualifications to call me little friend? Ridiculous. An ungrateful idiot who doesn't know the meaning of the word is useless. You only know how to rely on the big tree of the Yinma clan to seek protection. What's the use of a stupid insect like you?" As Chu Xiu's last word fell, a powerful and shocking spiritual power instantly burst out. Tao Gongwang was worthy of being an old man who had been in the Jianghu for a long time. The moment Chu Xiu's spiritual power burst out, he had already sensed the danger. He immediately released a large number of poisonous insects, but they didn't rush towards Chu Xiu. Instead, they protected his body. However, as Chu Xiu's soul-suppressing Hades song was displayed, the spiritual power formed ripples. Every time the primordial spirit attacked, a large number of poisonous insects would fall to the ground. Almost in an instant, there was already a blank space in front of Tao Gongwang. Even he himself was attacked by the soul-suppressing Hades song. There was a sharp pain in his head as if his soul was about to be shattered. Before Tao Gongwang could cry out in pain, Chu Xiu took a step forward and appeared in front of Tao Gongwang almost instantly. One hand was already on Tao Gongwang's neck. Cold demonic chi instantly burst out and sealed Tao Gongwang's meridians. There was a look of horror in Tao Gongwang's eyes. The others didn't expect that Lin Yi would actually attack him. It was simply unreasonable. Just as they wanted to dissuade Chu Xiu, and Tao Gongwang also wanted to open his mouth to beg for mercy, the demonic chi in Chu Xiu's hand burst out. He directly crushed Tao Gongwang's neck and threw him to the ground as if he was throwing a dead dog. Everyone present looked at Tao Gongwang's corpse with a look of disbelief in their eyes. Tao Gongwang died just like that? Lin Yi was actually so daring to kill someone as soon as he came up? Chapter 597. Tao Gongwang's death was actually very unjust. Although his strength was far inferior to Chu Xiu's, he had many evil poisonous insects on him. These things were his trump cards. Although he did not dare to say that he could defeat Chu Xiu, he could at least guarantee that he could last a few rounds in the hands of Chu Xiu. In the past, Tao Gongwang was able to escape from the hands of Zhang Qingzhen. This was actually enough to prove Tao Gongwang's strength. However, Tao Gongwang did not expect that Chu Xiu would actually have the intention to kill him. They were both from the hidden devil lineage. It was fine if Chu Xiu made a move in public, but he actually dared to kill him directly. Tao Gongwang did not expect this, nor did the others. Therefore he died. He died a very unjust death. He was strangled before he could use his trump cards. Chu Xiu looked at the surrounding demonic Dao cultivators. Some were furious, some were at a loss, and some were waiting to watch a good show. He said indifferently, "One cannot forget one's roots. Even if we are people of the demonic Dao, we still need to know what is morality and what is kindness. All these years, you have been protected by the hidden devil lineage. You have preserved your strength and lives. Now that we need to use your strength, you are here to make excuses. If this is not ungrateful, then what is? The hidden devil lineage does not need useless trash. We do not need ungrateful stupid insects. You have seen Tao Gongwang's fate. Do you want to be an ungrateful stupid insect and be cleaned up like trash, or follow me to take revenge for the Nine Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance? Choose for yourself." Some of the martial artists present looked a little angry. Some of them were similar to Tao Gongwang. They all joined the hidden devil lineage later. These people did not have much sense of belonging to the hidden devil lineage. Chu Xiu had used such a violent method to kill Tao Gongwang and threaten them. This made them feel very uncomfortable. They didn't believe that Lin Yi could really kill all of them. However, Chu Xiu paused and said, "Of course, it's not that I don't want to give you a chance. Revenge can't be forced. As long as you're not like that stupid worm Tao Gongwang, who is obviously protected by the Yinma clan, but still spouts nonsense and shakes the army's morale. Now if you want to withdraw or leave, it's up to you. I'll report it to Senior Wei Shuya. From now on, you're no longer members of the Yinma clan." Chu Xiu's words were almost the same as what Wei Shuya had just said to him. It seemed to be a multiple-choice question, but in fact he had no choice at all. The people who were still filled with righteous indignation instantly quieted down. Even if a few of them were moved, they held back when they saw that no one made a sound in the end. Just as Chu Xiu said, even the Yinma clan hated those ungrateful villains. If they left today, they would be branded with the image of an ungrateful, two-faced villain. They were already not tolerated by the righteous martial world. If they left the Yinma clan now, they could only go to the Bright Demon clan. But as long as their actions were spread out, even the Bright Demon clan would not accept them as disciples. The relationship between the sect and the disciples was mutual. The sect provided shelter and space for you to grow. In the future, they also hoped that you could protect the sect and other disciples in return. Now that this group of people had done such a thing, one could imagine what others would think of them. Moreover, they didn't think that even if they admitted that they were ungrateful and cowardly, the Yinma clan would let them go. With their strength, they had already seen many secrets of the Yinma clan, such as this secret land. If they chose to leave now, could the Yinma clan rest assured that they would keep the secret? Only the dead could keep secrets the best. Looking at the people around him, Chu Xiu said lightly, "What? No one wants to leave? If anyone dares to disobey orders next time, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." With that, Chu Xiu glanced at Tao Gongwang on the ground. Obviously this was the end. And don't feel wronged. You joined the Yinma clan, but you didn't directly enter the Phaseless Demon sect, the Scarlet Demon sect, and other sects that belong to the Yinma clan. Although you have some freedom, you naturally won't get the treatment in the sect. There are many people like you. Senior Chu Wuji who just went out, he was born like you, but in the end he became a martial Dao Grandmaster, an expert of the Yinma clan. But think about it, how many of you have the confidence to reach the level of Senior Chu? Senior Chu could reach this stage without relying on anything else, but all of you can't. This time, Senior Wei gathered all of you to avenge the Nine Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance, not to send you to your deaths. This is a chance for you to display yourselves. Who can stand out and who can continue to remain where they are. There are people watching from above. With that said, the anger of the people present dissipated by more than half. What was left was thinking. Indeed, they had joined the Yinma clan for a long time. Although they had received protection, in reality, there were only a few of them who could stand out. Now that the opportunity had come, although there was a certain risk, There were also gains, especially to gain a good impression from Senior Wei. At this moment, Luo Sansong suddenly walked out with his ghost beheading knife and laughed loudly. "You're quite good at talking. I can't win against you, I only believe in the knife in my hand. Let's have a few moves. If you defeat me, no matter if you're a senior or a junior, you're the boss. If you lose, I'll go with you." After all, when I was being chased by those aristocratic families, it was the Yinma clan that saved me. I'm not an ungrateful old thing like Tao Gongwang. Although Chu Xiu had killed Tao Gongwang with one move just now, no one present could see Chu Xiu's true strength. This was because Chu Xiu's attack was too sudden. Although it was a head-on attack, everyone present, including Tao Gongwang, did not expect that Chu Xiu would publicly use a killer on such an occasion. Therefore, Chu Xiu's attack could be considered a sneak attack. Tao Gongwang did not even use half of his strength before he was crushed to death by Chu Xiu. Therefore, Tao Gongwang's death this time was somewhat unjust. Not only Luo Sansong, but the others also wanted to see Lin Ye's true strength in a head-on attack. Although they had already seen the information on the Longhu list and knew that Lin Yi was very strong, and even had the power to kill a martial Dao Grandmaster, seeing was believing. After all, they had not seen it with their own eyes, so they were still somewhat skeptical. Chu Xiu waved his hand casually and said, "All right, make your move." Luo Sansong said in surprise, "Right here? If I destroy this hall and Senior Wei scolds me, it will have nothing to do with me." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Don't worry, it can be settled in a few moves. It won't be damaged." Luo Sansong snorted coldly and said, "Arrogant." Although he had to admit that Lin Yi was very famous in the Jianghu and was most likely very strong, he did not believe that Lin Yi would be able to defeat him in a few moves. Although he had challenged Lin Yi this time, he did not believe that Lin Yi could defeat him in a few moves. However, since Lin Yi had said so, he did not stand on ceremony. The ghost-headed beheading blade in Luo Sansong's hand surged with a blood-red light, and even his eyes turned blood-red in an instant. As the blade slashed down, the blood chi and killing intent surged, and a boundless ferocious aura bloomed. There was even a vague demon's howl in the blade momentum. It had to be said that Luo Sansong was not weak. He was definitely considered an expert among those at the unity of heaven and man realm. There were not many warriors of the same level who could block his blade. However, no matter how strong Luo Sansong was, his strength had not surpassed the scope of the unity of heaven and man realm. As for Chu Xiu, there were not many warriors of the same level as him who could be considered an opponent. His opponents had even become those martial Dao masters. As the blade momentum slashed down, Chu Xiu's expression did not change. However, there was a mysterious starlight flowing in his eyes. Given Chu Xiu's current mind power, when he used the heaven's sun gazing at air skill, a warrior of Luo Sansong's strength had no secrets to speak of in front of him. Chu Xiu could see every change in his moves clearly. Just as the saber aura was about to reach him, Chu Xiu punched out with a punch that contained boundless blood chi. Vast blood chi and killing intent swept out, bringing with it an indomitable and powerful might as it descended. However, there was a strange rhythm in the fist's momentum. As the fist grew closer and closer, Chu Xiu's selfless killing fist actually triggered the momentum of Luo Sansong's blade, causing the power of his blade to become unstable. It started to jump and there was even a backlash. Luo Sansong had never seen such a strange situation. It was clearly his blade, but there was still a backfire. Was this his power or Lin Ye's? Why did the other party know his power better than he did? Luo Sansong no longer dared to continue with the power backfire. If he continued with the blade, it would hurt both him and Luo Sansong. Hence, at the critical moment, Luo Sansong directly withdrew his blade to defend himself. Chu Xiu's selfless killing fist blasted on Luo Sansong's blade and immediately made a loud sound. Luo Sansong's expression suddenly changed when he sensed the powerful force. He could not help but retreat rapidly. When his feet landed, a hole immediately appeared on the ground. After retreating dozens of steps, Luo Sansong had already retreated to the back of the hall. Chu Xiu performed a hand seal and displayed the demon Buddha of massacre. The evil blood Buddha held a ferocious blood blade and slashed down with the blade. The fierce blood chi soared into the sky. Luo Sansong's blade just now paled in comparison to Chu Xiu's demon Buddha of massacre. Seeing the demon Buddha of massacre's blade attack, Luo Sansong's eyes widened. The power shocked him so much that he was even ready to burn his blood essence to resist. In the end, Chu Xiu's blade did not completely fall. Instead, when it fell halfway, the chi and blood within it directly dissipated, and the demon Buddha of massacre also gradually disappeared. Luo Sansong put down his blade, no longer as arrogant as before. He cupped his hands at Chu Xiu and said with a bitter smile, "Greetings, Lord. I lost and I admit my defeat." Chapter 598. Luo Sansong told Chu Xiu that he accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. This was not perfunctory but the truth. He had already seen the power of the slaughter demon Buddha form. It was shockingly powerful. However, in the end, Chu Xiu was able to forcefully retract his attack as if it was a piece of cake. This was 10 or even 100 times more difficult than slashing out that attack. The way Luo Sansong addressed Chu Xiu as Lord convinced him. Although Chu Xiu was much younger than him, for a person like him, strength was the only rule. As long as Chu Xiu's strength was stronger than his, then everything would be fine. At this time, Zhao Qingping, who had been silent all this while, also stood up. He cupped his hands respectfully towards Chu Xiu and said, "Greetings, Lord." Zhao Qingping's thoughts were very simple. Wei Xia wanted to take revenge for the 9 Heavenly Mountain Demon Dao Alliance. In fact, he wanted to take revenge for his ancestors. He had no reason to object. Moreover, his bloodline had always been under Wei Xia's protection. Putting aside the fact that Lin Yi, who was very powerful, was leading them, he could accept it even if it was someone weaker. In any case, as long as it was Wei Xia who said it, he had to support it. When the people present saw that the strongest among them, Tao Gongwang, was killed, and Luo Sansong and Zhao Qingping had chosen to surrender, even if the others still had some ulterior motives, they respectfully lowered their heads and cupped their hands, saying, "Greetings, Lord." At this time, outside the main hall, Wei Xia and Chu Wuji had actually been watching. When they saw that Chu Xiu had subdued these people in such a short period of time, Chu Wuji could not help but praise, "This kid is really good." Xiao Ling and Lu Jin did not choose the wrong person. In fact, what our Yinma clan lacks the most are not experts, but people like this kid who can control the overall situation and really do things. Strength and ability were two different concepts. Some people had strength, but it did not mean that they were good in all aspects. Take Chu Wuji for example. Although he was born in the royal family, he was not good at controlling his subordinates and plotting. He could kill people, but he could not do anything else. Mei Qinglian was also such a person. However, she was the only one left in the Yin Demon sect. Even if she wasn't good at these things, she still had to do it. As for people like Mr. Lu, who were not as strong as Mei Qinglian and Chu Wuji, he was actually stronger than the two of them. As early as when Mr. Lu was in the unity of heaven and man realm, he had already led the people of the phaseless demon sect to make all sorts of arrangements in the dark, causing quite a lot of trouble in the Jianghu. He himself was also one of the higher-ups of the phaseless demon sect, and he had many subordinates under him. Wei Xia shook his head and said, "There are actually a lot of capable people in the Yinma clan. Unfortunately, the alliance is the alliance after all. There are too many unstable factors. In the past, when the 9 heavenly demons formed the Demon Dao Alliance, the reason why we were able to set off such a great power was because the 5 of us had quite a bit of strength under us. With them as the core, we were able to form a powerful alliance. Although the strength of the Hidden Devil clan was much stronger than before, there were also more schemes. Although the Phaseless Demon sect, the Scarlet Demon sect, and the other sects were loyal to the Yinma clan, they had to consider the interests of their own sects first. The other old fellows of the Yinma clan were even more excessive. They only thought about the interests of their own disciples and grand-disciples, and brought out a large number of disciples. They only thought about the benefits, and when they encountered a problem, they would push the blame onto each other. You said that my Inimo clan does not lack experts, but what I Inimo clan lack is a supreme expert that can suppress everyone. Chu Wuji was silent for a while and said, "You mean a supreme expert like Yi Xiaonan of the moon-worshipping cult?" Although the Bright Demon clan and the Yinma clan were still hostile, Chu Wuji had to admit that the entire Yinma clan could not find an expert who could match Yi Xiaonan. If there was no moon-worshipping cult to share the pressure on the surface, the Yinma clan would not be so relaxed now. Wei Xia shook his head and narrowed his eyes. He did not know where to look. Not enough. Far from enough. What my Yinma clan needs is not only an expert like Yi Xiaonan, but also an existence like Patriarch Dugu who can suppress the entire Jianghu. Only then can my Yinma clan completely turn over. Chu Wuji smiled bitterly and did not say anything. Since ancient times, how many people in the world could compare to Patriarch Dugu? Only a handful. Lu Chunyang of the Chunyang Dao sect was one, Bodhidharma of the Buddhist sect was one, Ning Xuanji of the True Martial sect was also one, and there was Patriarch Dugu. Perhaps there were a few people who could compare to Patriarch Dugu, but all of them counted, there were no more than 10. Whether the Yinma clan could produce another expert like Patriarch Dugu, in Chu Wuji's opinion, the hope was slim, and he could not even see it in his generation. At this time, Chu Xiu was also thinking about how he should complete this task. Luo Sansong and the others had already been subdued. Although these guys were unruly, as long as they were obedient, they were still very strong. Therefore, in this regard, Chu Xiu did not need to worry. Moreover, people had desires, and this group of Yinma clan was the same. With Chu Xiu's identity and status and Wei Shuya standing behind him, these people wanted to stand out, so they had to perform well in front of Chu Xiu. Therefore, the problem in front of Chu Xiu now was how to solve these forces on the list as soon as possible. On the list that Wei Shuya gave to Chu Xiu, those forces were generally not too strong. Some families might have hidden ancestors who had stepped into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm, but Chu Xiu was not afraid. With his current strength, Chu Xiu was confident that he could fight with ordinary martial Dao Grandmasters, and even had a high chance of winning. With the 7-demon saber in hand, it was not difficult for Chu Xiu to kill some weaker martial Dao Grandmasters. Therefore, the real difficulty of this task was speed. Chu Xiu had to use the fastest speed to clean up this group of people. Once this group of people sensed that something was wrong, they would either scatter and hide, or they would attract some righteous path sex martial artists, increasing the difficulty for Chu Xiu. At the same time, it would also cause some unpredictable things. But these forces on the list were too scattered. Dozens of forces, most of them in eastern Qi, some in west Chu and some in northern Yan. Chu Xiu would clean up a dozen forces one by one. It was estimated that after he got rid of a dozen forces, the other forces would notice and then respond. After thinking for a while, Chu Xiu almost had a general plan. He said to Zhao Qingping in a deep voice, "Zhao Qingping, you have stayed in the Yinma branch for a long time, so you must be very familiar with these people. Divide them according to their strength and what they are good at, and choose a leader for each of them. Limit the number of leaders to 10, and let Luo Sansong manage the strongest teams." Luo Sansong was just about to say that he was not good at managing these things when Chu Xiu directly said, "You don't have to care so much. When the time comes, when I ask you to kill someone, you just have to lead your subordinates to kill someone. Just listen to my commands. Don't tell me you can't do that." Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Luo Sansong had to spread out his hands and said, "I can do that." In fact, people like Luo Sansong were not suitable to manage these things, but Chu Xiu could not let Zhao Qingping manage everyone. But now Chu Xiu did not know these people well, so he could only do this for the time being. Zhao Qingping was not an idiot, and he did not have any objections to Chu Xiu's way of doing things. On the contrary, if the other party really trusted him so much and let him manage everyone, then either the other party was too stupid and naive, or there was some kind of conspiracy behind it. "Sir, which force should we choose first?" Zhao Qingping asked. Chu Xiu glanced at the information and said, "Choose the nearest one, the Wang family of Western Chu. But we don't need all of us to attack. You choose 20 people and attack with me. Remember, among these 20 people, there can't be any warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm. Only those in the 3-flower realm and the 5 cheese collecting origin realm." Hearing Chu Xiu say this, Zhao Qingping and Luo Sansong felt a little strange. In their opinion, given their strength, they should have just mobilized all of their forces to annihilate these small factions. It would have been a piece of cake for them to get rid of the other party. However, Chu Xiu had only mobilized a little bit of his strength. Why did he have to go to the trouble? But seeing Chu Xiu's confident look, they did not ask much. Whatever Chu Xiu said they would do. The Wang family of Western Chu was actually very close to Guanxi, not far from the border between Guanxi and Western Chu. They were not weak, but they were not strong either. There were also a few warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm in the family. It was late at night and the Wang family's hall was still brightly lit. During the day, the Wang family's old ancestor had just held his 188th birthday. At this time, the guests had already left. The Wang family's old ancestor called his family over and lectured the juniors as usual. In the Wang family's hall, over 100 direct descendants of the Wang family were either sitting or standing. They were all gathered around the Wang family's old ancestor. A unity of heaven and man realm martial artist had a lifespan of 200 years. Although the Wang family's old ancestor only had a dozen years left to live, he was still in good spirits and his face was glowing. Looking at the many descendants below, the Wang family's old ancestor stroked his white beard and said, "Ever since my Wang family's ancestor established the family, it has already been over 300 years. You need to know that it is easy to start a business but hard to maintain it. The reason my Wang family has its current power is because my ancestor followed the Sword Hut sword experts to destroy the Demonic Path Alliance 300 years ago. Because he bravely killed the enemy, he was recognized by the Sword Hut's experts and was bestowed with a cultivation technique, allowing us to establish the family. You also need to remember that it was not easy for my Wang family to have what it is today. Cultivate hard and don't be lazy. Only then can we live up to the legacy our ancestor left behind. At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from outside. Since your ancestor left behind so many legacies for your Wang family, then shouldn't your ancestor's karma be repaid by you? Chapter 599. In the middle of the night, a voice suddenly came from the inner residence of the Wang family. Everyone in the Wang family was shocked. The old ancestor of the Wang family stood up and shouted, "Who is it? Come out. Don't play tricks here." With a loud bang, the door of the Wang family's inner residence was blasted open. Two disciples of the Wang family who were guarding the door fell to the ground. There were no injuries on their bodies, but they were already dead. Chu Xiu was dressed in black and wore an expressionless black iron mask. He carried the seven-demon saber on his back as he walked into the hall. Everyone gasped when they saw him. Not long after Xiaofan, the news of Lin Yi, the hero of diabolism, had spread throughout the Jianghu. Among the top 10 on the Longhu list, he was the only one who came from diabolism and was ranked in the top 10. He had even killed a martial arts master before. At this moment, Chu Xiu was dressed the same as he was in Xiaofan, so it was easy for the Wang family to recognize him. The old ancestor of the Wang family waved his hand and said with a solemn expression, "Lin Yi, the Wang family has no enmity with you." "What do you mean by this?" The patriarch of the Wang family really could not understand. He did not know Lin Yi at all. In fact, he had only heard about Lin Yi through hearsay. But now Lin Yi had come knocking on his door. What was the meaning of this? Chu Xiu sneered, "No enmity? Old man Wang, you were just showing off the achievements of your Wang family's ancestor 300 years ago. Have you forgotten about it now? 300 years ago, on Jiuqian Mountain, your Wang family's ancestor followed an expert from the sword hut and killed 17 people from my diabolism. TSK, how powerful. However, a debt of blood must be paid in blood. 300 years have passed and the interest should increase a little. In the past, your Wang family killed 17 people from my diabolism. Today, I will kill 170 people from your Wang family. The hatred of the past will be repaid tenfold, 100-fold. It's fair and reasonable, isn't it?" Hearing this, the old ancestor of the Wang family's expression suddenly changed. He did not expect that his family would be targeted by the Yinma clan because of this matter. In the past, when the Wang family's ancestor participated in killing the 9 Heavenly Mountains Demon Dao Alliance, it was for a prosperous future, so he didn't care about the consequences at all. In the end, the 9 Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance was destroyed. A group of demonic Dao people could only hide in the dark and tremble. They could not think of taking revenge, nor did they dare to. Gradually, the Wang clan forgot about this matter. In fact, in this generation, the Wang clan didn't even realize that they still had this grudge. Usually, the Wang clan's ancestor would teach the younger generation a lesson and tell them about the clan's history. It was only to increase the cohesion of the clan leader. In the end, who would have thought that a period of history from 300 years ago would cause the Wang family to experience a calamity of death? The ancestor of the Wang family hurriedly said, "Let's not talk about the past for now. That was 300 years ago. Sir Lin, please understand. My Wang family has long stopped caring about the conflicts between the righteous and demonic lineages. Ever since I was born, my Wang family has never moved against the demonic lineage." Chu Xiu said indifferently, "The ancestors plant trees and the descendants benefit from the shade. The karma of the ancestors naturally needs to be repaid by the descendants. Old man Wang, didn't you say before that the Wang family was able to have its current family business because your ancestor exchanged the heads of the demonic Dao warriors? Now that you have enjoyed this family business for 300 years, it is time to return it." A middle-aged warrior who had reached the unity of heaven and man realm stepped forward and shouted coldly, "Ancestor, why are you wasting your breath on him? This Lin Yi is just one person. No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than the entire Wang family? Everyone, attack together and subdue this little demon. Then, hand him over to the forgetful sword hut to receive the reward." Although this warrior from the Wang family had also reached the unity of heaven and man realm, it was clear that he had not seen the limits of the unity of heaven and man realm. He did not know that although they were both at the unity of heaven and man realm, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Furthermore, this kind of strength could not be made up for with numbers. "You shut up." The Wang family's ancestor shouted angrily at the warrior. His entire body trembled in fear. The Wang family's ancestor was not afraid of Lin Yi. No matter how strong Lin Yi was, he was just one person, a junior of the demonic Dao. He was not an expert like Chu Wuji. What he was truly afraid of was Lin Ye's purpose for appearing here. The Yinma clan wanted to settle the enmity from 300 years ago. Even if they could hide from Lin Yi today, could they hide from the revenge of the entire Yinma clan? It was a colossus that could easily crush the entire Wang family. The Wang family's ancestor pleaded to Chu Xiu, "Young Master Lin, it is true that my Wang family's ancestor participated in that battle back then, but the mastermind of that battle was not my Wang family's ancestor. If the Yinma clan wants revenge, why bother making things difficult for us, a small family? Isn't it better to find the mastermind?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Of course not. Whether it's the mastermind or the accomplice, the Yinma clan's enmity will be avenged sooner or later. It doesn't matter who we find first. You don't have to have any wishful thinking anymore." The Wang family's ancestor let out a long breath and said in a deep voice, "All right. I will avenge my ancestors. Young Master Lin, you don't have to do anything. I am willing to be captured, but young Master Lin, can you let the other disciples of my Wang family live? Leave a trace of my Wang family's bloodline." Chu Xiu said in an awe-inspiring tone, "Your Wang clan has enjoyed for so many years, it's time for you to pay the price. I said that I want to kill 170 people, so I want 170 lives. If human lives aren't enough, then even if I have to kill the dogs of your Wang clan and use their lives to make up for this number." "Lin Yi, you are going too far." The Wang family's ancestor roared angrily. Blood qi rose around his body and turned into a blood sword. He suddenly attacked Chu Xiu. He was so decisive that he burned his blood essence as if he was risking his life. At the same time, the Wang family's ancestor also roared at the other warriors of the Wang family, "Run! Run!" Although the Wang family's ancestor liked to show off in front of the younger generation and liked to put on face, as the head of the family, the Wang family's ancestor was qualified enough. As a senior of the Jianghu, he was several times older than Chu Xiu. However, he was careful and servile in front of Chu Xiu. He said all kinds of good words and was even willing to use his life in exchange for the survival of his family. The Wang family's ancestor was responsible enough. It was a pity that Chu Xiu came to kill people today. Even if he was responsible enough, he couldn't escape death. At the moment when the Wang family's ancestor attacked with his sword, a demon Buddha of slaughter appeared behind Chu Xiu. But at this time, the demon Buddha of slaughter was not holding a knife in its hand. Instead, it was forming a seal. In an instant, the Wang family's ancestor was shocked to find that the blood sword he had condensed was not under his control. With the movement of the demon Buddha of slaughter, the blood sword turned upside down. Under the Wang family's ancestor's disbelieving gaze, it directly pierced through his protective gang qi and stabbed into his chest. In front of Chu Xiu, who had the demon blood technique, any cultivation method that burned qi and blood would be restrained by Chu Xiu, unless the opponent had a strong physical strength to suppress their own qi and blood. Now that Chu Xiu had the identity of Lin Yi, it was not convenient for him to use a cultivation method like the demon blood technique. He could only use the power of the demon Buddha of slaughter to use the demon blood technique. Although the effect was the same, under the concealment of the demon Buddha of slaughter, ordinary people would not be able to see this change. Chu Xiu walked forward step by step. He stretched out his hand and pushed lightly, directly pushing the Wang family's ancestor to the ground. Now it was the Wang family's turn to tremble. In the hearts of the Wang family's disciples, the ancestor should be a godlike existence, able to block all enemies. But in front of Lin Yi, their ancestor could not withstand a single blow. Just now, the Wang family's ancestor had asked them to quickly escape. This group of Wang family's disciples did not care, but at this time, they were all screaming and running towards the other exit of the inner hall. But before they could escape, a long spear stained with demon qi shot out like a waterfall, smashing a group of people away. Then another spear struck down a Wang family's unity of heaven and man realm cultivator. Its power was extraordinary. The owner of this demon spear was Zhao Qingping. Although this person usually looked very calm and taciturn, at this time when he made a move, it was incomparably shocking. His spear technique was accurate and fierce, and its power was not weak. Want to escape? Leave your life behind first. Following Zhao Qingping's attack, the more than 20 people that he brought immediately attacked and began to chase the Wang family's cultivators. Although the Yinma clan had very few people, only more than 20 people, these people were the cream of the crop among those of the same level. It was not difficult to fight one against many. Moreover, there were also the two experts Chu Xiu and Zhao Qingping. The Wang family was easily defeated by them. However, because they were few in number, some people from the Wang family still escaped. After cleaning up the battlefield, Zhao Qingping walked over with the demon spear in his hand and said in a deep voice, "My lord, we have killed all that can be killed, but there are still some people from the Wang family who escaped. Do we need to chase?" Chu Xiu waved his hand casually and said, "Don't care about them. After a while we will attack the next clan. Remember, only bring more than 20 people will be enough." Zhao Qingping agreed respectfully. However, at this moment he was also very puzzled. He did not know what Lin Yi was up to. If Lin Yi had brought all his people to attack the Wang family this time, Zhao Qingping could guarantee that no one from the Wang family would escape alive. In the end, more than 10 people from the Wang family had escaped. Even when Lin Yi had attacked just now, he had been very careless. It seemed like he had deliberately let these people go. However, Zhao Qingping had always been a cautious person. Although he had some doubts about Lin Yi's arrangements, he did not ask. He did not trust Chu Xiu. It could be said that he had never trusted Chu Xiu. It was only because the person in front of him was chosen by Senior Wei Shuya that he was so respectful to Chu Xiu. He believed that the person chosen by Senior Wei Shuya would not be an idiot. He would not deliberately let the tiger return to the mountain and cut the grass without removing the roots. Chapter 600. Chu Xiu did not just make a move against the Wang family in West Chu, he also made a move against many of the powers on the West Chu list. But the strange thing was that every time Chu Xiu used more than 20 people, he did not use his full strength. This also caused a portion of people to escape every time Chu Xiu made a move. Because a large number of people escaped, the news that the Yinma bloodline was preparing for revenge gradually spread throughout West Chu and even the martial arts world. Hearing this news, most people actually had an indifferent attitude. There were countless incidents of families being destroyed. The number of people killed by the Yinma bloodline was not as many as the number of people killed in the martial arts world. It was not a big deal. Furthermore, although there were many warriors who had participated in the battle to exterminate the 9 Heavenly Mountains demonic Tao alliance, there were only a few that still had their legacies after 300 years. Even if Chu Xiu's list contained dozens of factions, they were just a drop in the ocean when placed in the entire Jianghu. The Yinma bloodline had jumped out to cause a lot of trouble before. For example, in the God Weapon Conference, the spearhead was pointed at Hidden Sword Villa, one of the 5 major sword sections. Now they were just destroying some small forces to vent their anger. For the entire martial arts world, it was really not a big deal. Moreover, Wei Shuya was very accurate. He only attacked the small forces and not the big sections. Although it was a bit cowardly to pick the soft ones, it was also very safe. The big sects had already heard about this, but they had not really taken action. After all, it was not a matter that truly concerned their own interests. Moreover, the movement caused by the Yinma clan was not too big. Even if it was a righteous sect like the Great Light Temple, their reaction speed was not considered fast. At this time, in a secret stronghold of the Yinma bloodline in West Chu, Zhao Qingping brought more than 20 people to carry out the mission of exterminating the family. Chu Xiu was peacefully cultivating in the stronghold. This time he did not even do it himself. Because the target was too weak. There was only one warrior in the Unity of Heaven realm in the entire family. Zhao Qingping could handle it alone. If he went, it would really be a massacre. When Zhao Qingping returned with his men and saw Chu Xiu's leisurely appearance, he finally couldn't help but ask, "My lord, you want us to do this, but when will we be able to clean up all the people on the list? Now if we destroy a family, we will lose half of their people. In the end, I'm afraid we won't even be able to clean up the West Chu powers. The powers on our target will already be on alert and preparing countermeasures." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "Prepare countermeasures? What I am afraid of is not that they are prepared but that they are not. There were dozens of forces on the list, and they were all located in West Chu, Northern Yen and Eastern Qi. Even if they attacked with all their strength and even if we could teleport, we wouldn't be able to kill so many people in such a short time. So, my plan is very simple. I want them to be prepared. Instead of cleaning them up one by one, it's better to let them gather together. This way it'll be easier for us to take action and catch them all in one go once and for all." When Zhao Qingping saw that Chu Xiu seemed to have a plan, he couldn't help but ask, "But my lord, those powers are scattered throughout the Jianghu, how could they listen to us?" Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "It's very simple. Just find someone who can make them listen to us. We've sent out so many people and I believe that those people have already understood our strength. Moreover, they've spread the news in the atmosphere of panic. At this time, if there's a person with high prestige, it'll be very easy to gather everyone. Chu Xiu picked up the information that Wei Shia gave him and pointed to the names on it. You continue to bring people to act in West Chu. Only find the powers that are weaker than you, don't touch the powers that are stronger than you. Once you find something abnormal, immediately retreat. As for me, I will bring Luo Sansong and the others to Eastern Qi to find the person who can raise his arm and call for help, the master of Lin and County's Red Leaf Manor, Maple Dancing Swordsman, Lu Jianhong. The person that Chu Xiu chose was one of the strongest powers on the list. Lu Jianhong himself had stepped into the realm of martial arts grandmaster a year ago. Red Leaf Manor was also the top power in Eastern Qi's Lin and County. 300 years ago, these people rose to power through the annihilation of the 9 Heavenly Mountains demonic Dao Alliance. Until now, some of the powers were developing mediocre while others were developing well. Red Leaf Manor was one of them. Lu Jianhong was the master of Red Leaf Manor. Whether it was himself or Red Leaf Manor, they had a good reputation in Eastern Qi's Jianghu. Lu Jianhong's nickname was the Maple Dancing Swordsman. The word hero was not something that an ordinary person could bear. Lu Jianhong had this nickname because he had helped those in danger and helped those in need in Eastern Qi's Jianghu for so many years. He had built up his reputation by eradicating many diabolism villains. Red Leaf Manor would also help those martial artists who were in trouble, regardless of remuneration. Hence, it had a good reputation in Eastern Qi's Jianghu. However, from Chu Xiu's point of view, whether it was Lu Jianhong or Red Leaf Manor, they were actually very similar to one person and one power, and that was Nie Renlong of the Morgue. Lu Jianhong was following Nie Renlong's old path, or rather he had always been imitating Nie Renlong. Whether it was helping those in danger or eradicating those diabolism villains, or helping the martial artists who came from Red Leaf Manor, they were all utilitarian. However, from Chu Xiu's point of view, Lu Jianhong was a little stingy in doing things. He was far less generous than Nie Renlong. Nie Renlong also did things for the sake of reputation, but he dared to pay a huge price for this reputation. Hence, he had the reputation of the morgue in Jianghu. On the other hand, Lu Jianhong was too cautious. He wanted to help those in danger to accumulate his reputation, but what he helped were only small matters, and what he gave out alms were also small favors. Other people were not idiots. Very few people would be deeply grateful to Lu Jianhong just because of these small favors. The diabolism villains that Lu Jianhong eradicated were almost all those who were not as powerful as him, so the harm they caused was limited. Hence, the reputation that he gained from eradicating those people was also limited. In Chu Xiu's point of view, this kind of person was the kind of person who was extremely ambitious, but in reality his own ability and means were limited. At this moment in the Red Leaf Manor of Eastern Qi's Lin and County, Lu Jianhong was sitting on the main seat in the main hall. Around him were more than 10 experts from the Lu family of Red Leaf Manor, and some of his descendants. Everyone had a solemn expression on their faces. Lu Jianhong was a middle-aged man with an extraordinary temperament. His appearance was square and masculine, and there was a long sword embellished with a red maple scabbard in his hand. However, at this moment, there was no expression on Lu Jianhong's face, and the atmosphere was very depressing. The Yinma clan was preparing to take revenge for the 9 heavens 300 years ago. This matter had already spread from West Chu to Eastern Qi. The forces that were related to that matter were all feeling insecure. Lu Jianhong naturally knew how his Lu family's ancestors started their business, so the entire Red Leaf Manor was enveloped in a solemn atmosphere. At this moment, a middle-aged warrior who looked younger than Lu Jianhong could not help but stand up and say, "Big brother, we can't just sit here and wait for death. The Yinma clan wants to take revenge, but they don't dare to attack those big sections. They only dare to provoke us. This time we have to let them see that our Red Leaf Manor is not a pushover. This time the leader of the Yinma clan is only Lin Yi, who appeared on the Longhu list a few days ago. There are also more than 20 ordinary warriors, and there is not even a martial Dao master. Even if Lin Yi can fight against a martial Dao master, I don't believe that the others have the same ability. Let's set up a trap and wait for Lin Yi to bring his men over. We can kill them all in one fell swoop and dampen their spirits. This will also make our Red Leaf Manor famous in the pugilistic world." Lu Jianhong glanced at him and said, "You're thinking too simply. No matter how strong Lin Yi is, he is only a junior. It is naturally impossible for him to destroy our Red Leaf Manor alone. However, even if we block Lin Yi and kill him, what can we do? This matter is decided by the entire Yinma clan. If we kill Lin Yi, we can't guarantee that we will attract more experts from the Yinma clan. When that happens, how will our Red Leaf Manor defend against them?" The warrior was instantly speechless. If that was the case, they could neither defend nor kill them. Could it be that their red leaf manor could only sit and wait for death? A young man sitting next to Lu Jianhong stood up and cupped his hands together. Father, why don't we ask those big sects for help? Father, you are familiar with the people from the Hidden Sword Villa, the True Martial Arts Cult, and the Nansang Xiahou clan. Now that the people from the Devil Path are so overboard, can the Yinma clan defeat these top forces if you ask them for help? Lu Jianhong sighed and said, haven't I thought about this? I even sent someone to pass the message to them previously, but it was like a stone thrown into the sea. Lin, you must remember that connections are connections, but you still have to rely on yourself at critical moments. This is especially so for the people from these big sections. Let alone the fact that I don't know people at the level of the clan leader. Even if it were the clan leader, they would have to discuss in detail about such a big matter and analyze the pros and cons before making a decision. When they come to a conclusion after their discussion, we don't know when it will happen. We can't just put our lives in the hands of others. The Lu clan members looked at each other. They couldn't fight them head-on and they couldn't get external help either. How would the Lu clan survive this crisis? At this moment, a voice was heard from outside the door. Why don't I give you an idea? Red Leaf Manor and Hero Lu have both fame and power. It's better to rely on yourself than to rely on others. In this environment where everyone is in danger, why don't you raise your arm and call for all the forces that participated in the Nine Heavens 300 years ago? Gather them together, strengthen their power, and fight against the Yinma clan. When that time comes, not only will you be able to survive this crisis, even the top sects in the pugilistic world will not be able to ignore this power. Hero Lu, as the initiator of this alliance, you will have all the benefits of fame. Chapter 601. The idea mentioned by the voice that suddenly appeared was actually a very good suggestion. It even made Lu Jianhong feel like he was suddenly enlightened. Turning passivity into initiative and disaster into opportunity. If everything went well and nothing went wrong, the Red Leaf Villa might really be more powerful than the Morgue Villa. However, no one in the hall felt happy. Instead, everyone's hearts tightened. They immediately picked up their weapons and stood up. This was the Red Leaf Villa, the territory of the Lu family. In the end, someone broke through the Lu family's defense outside the villa and eavesdropped on their conversation. Everyone in the Lu family felt horrified just thinking about it. Stop pretending to be mysterious. Come out. Lu Jianhong snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, the long sword in his hand was already unsheathed. It turned into a crimson sword aura that danced in the air. The sword aura actually evolved into a faintly discernible sword aura. Outside the door, Chu Xiu's fist landed. The murderous aura condensed and directly shattered the sword aura. Then he stepped into the hall. Behind him, Luo Sansong led more than 200 elites of the Hidden Devil clan and broke through the door. They rushed into the Red Leaf Villa. In an instant, the entire Red Leaf Villa was filled with demonic aura. Seeing Chu Xiu's figure, Lu Jianhong's expression suddenly changed. Lin Yi, why are you here? According to the information, Lin Yi should be in West Chu. Why did he suddenly appear in Eastern Qi? There were also the people behind him. There were nearly 23 warriors in the unity of heaven and man realm. The weakest among them was in the Three-Flower realm. Such a strong force was enough to attack a force like the Ba Mountain Sword sect, let alone his Red Leaf Villa. Chu Xiu sneered and did not say anything. He formed a seal with his hand, and the demon Buddha of slaughter behind him was displayed. The crimson blood blade slashed forward with incomparable power. The pressure from the blade intent made Lu Jianhong feel a faint sense of heavy pressure. Although Lu Jianhong had just stepped into the Martial Dao Grandmaster realm not long ago, he was still a Martial Dao Grandmaster no matter what. Yet he felt such a strong pressure from Chu Xiu. Was this not a joke? Fang Jianhong gritted his teeth, countless flowers rippling out from the long sword in his hand. They looked gorgeous, but they contained killing intent. Every flower contained a sliver of sword intent and stellar energy, and as the countless flowers fell from the sky, they were actually countless sword chi streaking across the sky. Seeing Fang Jianhong make his move, Chu Xiu couldn't help but reveal a cold smile. Fang Jianhong's strength was lower than he had imagined. Although Chu Xiu was currently in the unity of heaven and man realm, most of the people who were qualified to fight with him were Martial Dao Grandmasters. Moreover, among the Martial Dao Masters who had fought with Chu Xiu, other than Xiao Liandong who had died in his hands who was relatively weak, the rest were not weak. Even someone like Zhen Yangzi was considered a powerhouse among the Martial Dao Masters. These relatively powerful Martial Dao Grandmasters all had a common characteristic. When they fought, they rarely used their martial Dao grandmaster's own advantages. Instead, they used their own strength. What was the most basic advantage of martial Dao grandmasters? It was to condense the real pellet of martial Dao. They could quickly absorb the aura of heaven and earth and transform it into their own strength. So in theory, you could use the number of people to kill a martial artist in the unity of heaven and man realm. Even if it was a martial artist like Zhong Xin who had terrifying power, his internal force was not a bottomless pit. However, a real pellet state martial artist couldn't be killed by a large number of low-rank martial artists. This was the biggest advantage of martial Dao grandmasters, but this advantage was only for martial artists whose strength was far inferior to them. When two martial Dao grandmasters fought, this advantage naturally disappeared. Therefore, most martial Dao grandmasters still had to develop their own strength to make their combat power stronger. But when Lu Jianhong attacked, his explosive power was not even as strong as Chu Xiu. His sword momentum seemed to be endless, but in fact he wanted to use his endless qi to exhaust Chu Xiu. This move was easy for other martial artists in the unity of heaven and man realm, but for Chu Xiu, it was simply wishful thinking. The slaughter demon Buddha slashed the seemingly magnificent flowers directly, and the boundless blood qi soared into the sky. Coupled with the demonic flame of the Buddha, it made this slash look extremely evil. When the sword and the saber collided, Lu Jianhong suddenly felt a strong attack, and his figure couldn't help but retreat. That slash even affected the power of his qi and blood, even making Lu Jianhong feel as if his qi and blood were boiling. With Lu Jianhong's reputation in the martial arts world of Eastern Qi, he had fought with many martial artists, but he had never really fought with the top 10 talents on the Longhu list. To him, who had already become a martial Dao grandmaster, how strong could someone in the unity of heaven and man realm be? The so-called descriptions on the Longhu list were a little too exaggerated. In the end, Lu Jianhong saw that the Longhu list was not exaggerating. The combat power of these young talents was even stronger than he had imagined. His figure retreated and Lu Jianhong let out a furious roar. His sword was like flowing fire, and the crimson sword intent pulsated with nirvanic flames. When the sword stabbed out, the sixth transformation precious weapon in Lu Jianhong's hand seemed to be unable to withstand it and became boiling hot, as if it was about to melt. Lu Jianhong wasn't considered a rogue cultivator. The patriarch of the Lu clan had risen to power during the Great War between the righteous and the demonic in the Nine Heavens Mountain, but he didn't accumulate much. Therefore, Lu Jianhong's martial arts inheritance wasn't considered strong. Although he had become a martial Dao grandmaster now, his martial arts inheritance couldn't even compare to that of some ordinary disciples from large sects, let alone Chu Xiu. This sword technique didn't belong to him, but it was an incomplete technique that he had accidentally obtained from the secret box. It was extremely powerful, but because it was only an incomplete technique, there was a certain degree of risk of a backlash after using it. Lu Jianhong rarely used it unless it was a critical moment. He didn't expect that a martial Dao grandmaster like him would be forced to such an extent by a junior like Lin Yi with just one move. It was ridiculous and pathetic. Sensing the scorching flames and the power of nirvanic destruction in the sword, Chu Xiu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. As expected, no matter how weak a martial Dao grandmaster was, Lin Yi must have some trump cards since he was able to reach such a level. The power of the sword was extraordinary, and the complete sword technique must have been very powerful in ancient times. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful a technique was, it was just a technique. The key was the person who used it. The killing devil Buddha form behind Chu Xiu dissipated. At the same time, Chu Xiu's hand was on the greedy blade behind him. The seven demon blade hurt both others and oneself. Initially, Chu Xiu didn't plan to use it easily. However, he needed to defeat Lu Jianhong and the rest as soon as possible. Therefore, Chu Xiu could only use the seven demon blade as a killer move. The seven demon blade targeted a person's 7 emotions and 6 desires. With Chu Xiu's current ability, no matter which blade he used, Chu Xiu could only use one slash. Therefore, he had to choose a slash that could completely target Lu Jianhong's inner emotions. Otherwise, he would waste an opportunity. Greed, anger, obsession, hate, love, evil, and desire. Among the 7 emotions, greed was something most people couldn't avoid. Some people were greedy for money, some were lustful, and some were greedy for power. Lu Jianhong was a utilitarian. He couldn't escape the greed. The moment the greedy blade was unsheathed, an evil demonic aura roared out and devoured all energy, triggering Lu Jianhong's inner demons. In an instant, Lu Jianhong's eyes were slightly red. The greed in his heart was reflected on his face, distorting his originally square face into a hideous and terrifying look. Lu Jinhong's greed was very deep, even deeper than Chu Xiu imagined. He was a greedy person. He was greedy for fame, status, and power. There was a morgue in the north that rose from the wilderness. Nie Rinlong gathered all the experts in the world to form a morgue, which was why the morgue that was famous in the pugilistic world was formed. Lu Jinhong believed that he was not inferior to Nie Rinlong. He had always wanted to turn the Red Leaf Villa into a morgue for Eastern Qi. He had planned for this for countless years. Now that he had stepped into the martial arts master realm, he had come up with countless strategies and plans for this. Therefore he couldn't die here today. He didn't want to die here either. As the greedy blade slashed down, the earth energy around Lu Jinhong changed a little. Originally, his earth energy was crimson in color. Although Chu Xiu couldn't tell what kind of earth energy it was, Chu Xiu was sure that it was definitely not the earth energy of the demonic path. Now the earth energy around Lu Jinhong had turned black and red, emitting an evil aura. This was a sign that he had turned into a demon. The greedy blade slashed down and devoured everything. Lu Jinhong's stellar energy was engulfed by the saber. The greedy saber, which carried the nirvanic flames, did not completely engulf Lu Jinhong. However, as the greedy saber slashed down, endless demonic flames engulfed it. Even the distorted stellar energy around Lu Jinhong's body involuntarily flowed into the greedy saber, helping it suppress his sword move. The devil chi scattered and the sword intent scattered. The long sword in Lu Jinhong's hand shattered. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying, crashing into a row of tables and chairs behind him. Chu Xiu's eyes were also slightly red. However, he used his powerful mental energy to suppress the backlash of the greedy blade and casually sheathed the greedy blade. The seven-demon blade was inspired by the supreme saber technique of the ancient times, the seven limits. Although it couldn't activate the power of the seven limits, the power of the seven emotions was equally terrifying. As long as one wasn't a saint with a pure heart and few desires, one would definitely be affected by the seven-demon blade when facing it. The only difference was the degree of the influence. Lu Jinhong's nickname was the Maple Dancing Swordsman. No one knew if the word hero was given to him by someone or if he had gotten someone to spread it around. However, Lu Jinhong's true colors were revealed today under the greedy blade. He might be a hero, but he was a very greedy hero. Chapter 602. Lu Jinhong clutched his throbbing chest and looked at Chu Xiu in despair. He had just stepped into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm for a year and was full of ambition. He was planning how to turn Red Leaf Manor into a community of Eastern Qi so that his Red Leaf Manor could rise and become one of the major sects in the pugilistic world. In the end, who would have thought that all of this would be shattered today? Lu Jinhong even resented his ancestor, whom he had never met, for participating in the annihilation of the Nine Heavens Demonic Dao Alliance. With his strength and potential, even without the support of his ancestor, he could still cultivate to the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. Seeing that Chu Xiu was walking towards him, Lu Jinhong's sword was already broken. However, he was a martial Dao Grandmaster after all, so he still had the strength to fight. As a martial artist, most people had some backbone. In the face of a desperate situation, those who would kneel and beg for mercy were the minority. Most people would still fight to the death. Just as Lu Jinhong was prepared to fight to the death, Chu Xiu stopped in front of him and said calmly, "Hero Lu, you've worked hard for so many years to achieve your current strength and status. Don't you think it's a pity to die just like that?" Lu Jinhong heard Chu Xiu's words. He struggled to stand up and said, "What do you want?" If Lin Yi only wanted to kill him for revenge, there would be no need for him to say so much. He could just stab him again. However, from what Lin Yi said, could there be a turning point in this matter? Chu Xiu said, "I've already told Hero Lu what I'm thinking. Hero Lu, you have both reputation and strength. You can gather other forces that are about to be retaliated against by the Hidden Devil clan and form an alliance to resist them together." Lu Jinhong's voice trembled slightly. "What exactly do you want?" Lin Ye's idea was great, and it could even be said to be the best way to break out of this situation. However, why did he say it himself? Which side was he on? Lu Jinhong had a guess, but he did not dare to say it out loud. Chu Xiu lowered his head and stared at Lu Jinhong. He said in a low voice, "What? With Hero Lu's wisdom and methods, could it be that you still can't guess it? The factions of power who participated in the battle in Nine Heaven Mountain are scattered all over the world of martial artists. It'll take too much effort to search for them one by one, and it'll also waste too much time. Why don't we gather them all together? It'll be easier to kill them that way, don't you think?" "Impossible." Lu Jinhong roared angrily, "Even if you kill me, I won't become a lackey of the demonic path and do such despicable and shameless things. You're setting me up for eternal damnation and making me, Lu Jianhong, despised by the entire Jianghu. Lu Jianhong could imagine how things would turn out if he agreed to Lin Ye's request. He, a hero who had quite a reputation in Eastern Qi, would lose all his standing and reputation, and be cast aside by the entire Jianghu. He had become a lackey of the devil path and helped the Yinma clan kill so many of his colleagues. From now on, even if he didn't die, there would be no place for him in Jianghu. Lu Jianhong was greedy and utilitarian, but he still had a bottom line. There were dozens of factions. Even if they only sent their elites over, there would still be more than 1,000 people. By doing this, it was equivalent to helping Lin Yi kill more than 1,000 people. He might not have killed so many people in his entire life. Chu Xiu squinted his eyes and looked at Lu Jianhong. This hero Lu was actually quite a failure as a person. He wasn't a real hero, but he wasn't a hypocrite either. If Nie Renlong was in Nie Renlong's shoes, he would definitely choose the other person's death over his own. However, it was obvious that Lu Jianhong still couldn't overcome the obstacle in his heart. Chu Xiu looked at Lu Jianhong, shook his head and sighed. Manor Master Lu, you're still a little too stubborn. It's better to be selfish. What can you get by saving those people's lives? Do you think that you can gain a reputation for being a hero by sacrificing yourself? Stop dreaming, you won't be able to get anything. Chu Xiu shouted the last sentence. At the same time, the great technique of destroying heaven and destroying earth and soul transfer and the rotation of inner demons were circulating silently. His subtle mental strength didn't forcibly control Lu Jianhong's thoughts, but instead created an atmosphere to guide Lu Jianhong's thoughts. This time, no one knows the reason why I attacked your Red Leaf Manor. If you don't agree and I kill you, others will only think that it's a sneak attack by the devil path. If you die, it'll be in vain. If you die, it'll be in vain. There will even be people who rejoice in your misfortune and think that your Red Leaf Manor has finally fallen because of the benefits from 300 years ago. Manor Master Lu, never underestimate the evil intentions of some people in the Jianghu. If you die and the Red Leaf Manor is destroyed, I dare say that there will be more people who will applaud than sympathize with your Red Leaf Manor. Chu Xiu's words hit the nail on the head. Lu Jianhong wasn't a newcomer in the Jianghu. Of course, he knew that the majority of people in the Jianghu weren't chivalrous people who helped those in need, nor were they demons who killed people like flies. Instead, they were hypocrites who appeared sanctimonious on the surface, but were secretly thieves and prostitutes, as well as those despicable people who couldn't bear to see others do well. Chu Xiu whispered in Lu Jianhong's ear, Manor Master Lu, is the righteous path and the devil path really that important? If you want to turn the Red Leaf Manor into a memorial hall, if you want fame, join the devil path. You will also have fame. Fame is earned through strength, not through scheming. Lu Jianhong glanced at Chu Xiu and whispered in a hoarse voice, if you join the devil path, you won't gain fame but notoriety. Chu Xiu waved his hand and snorted coldly, notoriety? As long as you're strong enough, regardless of whether you're a righteous or a devil, you'll gain fame. Chu Xiu pointed to the other side. Under the attack of Luo Sansong and the others, the rest of the Lu clan had already been subdued. In front of more than 200 elites of the devil path, they had no chance to fight back at all. This was also because Chu Xiu had previously instructed Luo Sansong not to kill anyone. Otherwise, this group of people would have been slaughtered long ago. Manor Master Lu, take a good look. These are all members of the Lu clan. The blood of the Lu clan flows in their bodies. Is that your younger brother? Manor Master Lu, you have a good younger brother. Although he isn't much younger than you, he has listened to you since he was young. He has never wanted to fight with you for the position of the clan master. Do you have the heart to let such a close relative die? That young man is your son, right? Your son is quite talented. He has just reached the inner invulnerability state at the age of 20. In time, with proper training, he might have the opportunity to be ranked on the Longhu list. You want to carry forward the Red Leaf Villa. Isn't it for your son and your inheritance? Now that your son is dead, even if Manor Master Lu obtains the fame, who will you leave it to? Chu Xiu pointed to the group of Lu clan members who looked terrified and said to Lu Jianhong in a low voice, Manor Master Lu, you only have one chance. Think carefully before you speak. Do you want to work for me for the Yinma clan? Do you want others to bleed and others to cry, or do you want your own family to bleed and cry? The choice is in your hands. Look at these people. They are all your close relatives. If you say no, I'll send you to reunite with them in hell. Don't worry, I'll be very swift. Although some people like to smear the reputation of the devil path, saying that we are cruel and enjoy torturing people. In fact, those who like to torture people are perverts, not people of the devil path. Maple dancing swordsman, ha. Manor Master Lu, you have sacrificed a lot for the word chivalrous. But if you think about it carefully, it's not bad to change the word chivalrous to devil, isn't it? Lu Jianhong's face revealed a twisted expression of struggle. His eyes were red and the crimson gang qi around his body started to become unstable. It even emitted some black and red colors. This was the sign that he had already become a devil. Chu Xiu did not use the greedy blade, but his mental energy unknowingly dug out the deepest evil in Lu Jianhong's heart. This was an inner demon, a demon that belonged to Lu Jianhong himself. After a while, the aura on Lu Jianhong's body stabilized. He looked at Chu Xiu with an indescribable expression in his crimson eyes. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you a demon?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "I'm a demon, not a ghost. It's just that you have a guilty conscience." Manor Master Lu, you've already made your choice, haven't you? Lu Jianhong's face revealed a dejected expression. He looked at his family members. Seeing that they could not hear him, he then said to Chu Xiu in a low voice, "Have you given me a choice?" "There's no choice at all." "All right, I promise you that I'll help you set up a trap to lure the others here. But I want to fake my death. After this is done, pretend to kill me. From then on, there will be no Lu Jianhong in the pugilistic world." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "Why do you have to do this? If you die, no one will scold you anymore?" Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "If I die, they will only scold me for a while. They won't scold me forever. I just don't want my ancestors to be too embarrassed." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "A wise man submits to circumstances. Manor Master Lu's small request, of course I will fulfill it. Of course, the prerequisite is that you put on a good show. If you mess it up, the consequences are something that no one wants to see." Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "Don't worry. Now the lives of my entire family are in your hands. Do I still have a way out?" Chu Xiu walked over and patted Lu Jianhong's shoulder. He said, "Manor Master Lu, you don't have to be so pessimistic. Even if the Red Leaf Manor moves to a secret place, it will still be the Red Leaf Manor. If you join the Yinma clan, there might be more ways out. Actually, Manor Master Lu, you should feel lucky because you have the right to choose. Among all the forces on the list, although your Red Leaf Manor is not the strongest, your reputation is the greatest. That's why I've chosen you as my target. Think about the others. From the moment you agreed, their fates were already decided. They don't even have a choice." Chapter 603. Lu Jianhong had fallen into the demonic path. No matter if he was sincere or helpless, this was a path of no return. He had no other choice. The Lu clan members in the Red Leaf Manor were not allowed to leave the manor before the plan was completed. Hence, Chu Xiu only left a few people to guard the place. He then chose another deserted place in Eastern Qi as the location for the alliance. He also found a few people from the Hidden Devil clan who were the best at formations and set up a huge formation, a huge killing formation. At the same time, Lu Jianhong also spread the news in his own name. He gathered all the factions that were related to the Battle of the Nine Heaven Demonic Dao Alliance together in Eastern Qi to discuss countermeasures. Before Lu Jianhong sent them a message, this group of people were all in a state of panic. They looked for connections and thought of countermeasures, but none of them had any good ideas to stop the Hidden Devil clan. But now Lu Jianhong's appearance gave them new hope. Their individual factions and connections were indeed unable to stop the Hidden Devil clan. However, now that so many factions had joined forces, it was impossible for Lin Ye's subordinates to kill over 1,000 of them with just over 20 people. It was more like a counterattack. And most importantly, with such a huge commotion, they didn't believe that the large sects wouldn't make a move. Even if their alliance joined forces, they would be able to match some of the weaker factions in the martial world, such as the Azure Water Sword sect and the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Hence, no matter what their intentions were, after receiving Lu Jianhong's news, almost no one refused. They all sent their elites to Eastern Qi to meet up with Lu Jianhong. This group of people created such a huge commotion that the various large sects heard some news. But some started to take action while some didn't. Those who took action were mostly interested in the alliance formed by Lu Jianhong. Hence, they were prepared to send people to contact them. As for those who didn't take action, they were either uninterested or didn't care at all. At this moment, in a small courtyard of the Great Light Temple's Wang Yan Zhen Hall, two monks dressed in white monk robes were sitting in front of a Bodhi tree and playing chess. One of them was a middle-aged monk with a fierce appearance. He was the first seat of the Vajra institution, Venerable Skunda, Su Yen. On the other hand, the monk opposite him looked very strange. At first glance he looked very young. He seemed to be in his 20s, but upon closer inspection he seemed to be in his 30s or 40s. If you looked into his eyes, you would feel a strange sense of vicissitudes. You would even suspect that he was hundreds of years old. This strange monk was the head of the 3 great meditation halls of the Great Radiance Temple, the first seat of the Raging Thought Meditation Hall, the 9 Wonders Dragon Tree, Su Yun. He was recognized by the outside world as a powerful being who was second only to the abbot, Reverend Sakya Su Ci. However, within the Great Radiance Temple, many people felt that Su Yun was even scarier than the abbot, Su Ci. Because this is a person you can't see through at all. Outsiders could not see through Su Yun, and the people from the Temple of Great Light could not see through Su Yun either. Even Su Yun's teachers, the Buddhist masters from the previous generation of the Temple of Great Light, could not see through Su Yun either. In the end, Su Yun, who was much more famous than Su Ci, became the first seat of the Zen Hall of Delusion, while Su Ci became the abbot. However, within the Temple of Great Light, Su Yun's status was not any lower than Su Ci's. At the very least, Su Yan's attitude towards Su Ci was almost as respectful as the abbot. At this moment, Su Yun casually put down a chess piece and slaughtered Su Yan's entire dragon. Su Yan's hand moved slightly, but he eventually put down the chess piece and smiled bitterly. "Senior brother Su Yun, I've lost." Su Yun put away the chessboard and said calmly, "Su Yan, when you play chess you always feel a little uneasy. Did something happen? If there was nothing you wouldn't have come looking for me in a hurry to play chess." Su Yan smiled bitterly, "It's nothing much. It's just that there have been a lot of things happening in the underworld recently. Some of them are things that our Temple of Great Light has to deal with, but there are also some that we don't know if we should or not. Right now the abbot is in seclusion, so I can only ask you, senior brother Su Yun." Su Yun said slowly, "Oh? What is it?" Su Yen organized his words and told Su Yun about the recent happenings of the Hidden Devil lineage. Right now, that Eastern Chi's Red Leaf Manor's Lu Jianhong is inviting all the small factions that participated in the battle in the Nine Heaven Mountain back then to join the Eastern Chi Alliance. He has made quite a big fuss. If this alliance is formed by him, it will be even stronger than factions like the Azure Water Sword Sect or the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, which are ranked in the underworld. After Su Yun heard this, he nodded and said, "If that is the case, this Lu Jianhong is really someone. He isn't like the other factions that are waiting for their deaths. Instead, he has taken the initiative. If this crisis is resolved, he can take advantage of the situation and become the leader of this alliance. His influence will not lose out to the Northern Yen Memorial Manor. Before this person has been carefully lying low. This time he has shocked the world with a single brilliant feat and made such a big move. He is not a simple person." Su Yen said, "That is why I am also hesitating. Since that Lu Jianhong has already made a move, should our Great Light Temple still send someone over? Although that Lin Yi is strong and even heavily injured Su Xing in the minor mortal heaven, when faced with such a powerful alliance, even if he is a martial arts grandmaster, he will not be able to stop it." Su Yun waved his hand and said, "Of course we have to go. If this matter is not handled well, it might even cause an intense conflict between the orthodox and demonic sections. Our Great Light Temple cannot be absent." Su Yen said in surprise, "It can't be. The Hidden Devil lineage has a sense of propriety this time. They have never acted against the major factions. They have only acted against the minor factions and the descendants of some itinerant cultivators. Could it be that they want to start a war between the orthodox and demonic sects?" Su Yun pointed to the sky and said, "Sometimes we have to look further. Now that the demonic sects are reviving, a slight change will affect the whole. There are undoubtedly more things that we have to consider. The alliance of the demonic sects in the Nine Heaven Mountain has already been destroyed for 300 years. In the end, the Hidden Devil lineage is only preparing to take revenge now. If the demonic sects have not recovered, do you think they will resurface? This time, Lu Jianhong has formed an alliance to resist the Hidden Devil lineage's revenge. According to what you said, the Hidden Devil lineage only has Lin Yi and over 20 elites. It is possible to destroy some minor factions, but against such a powerful alliance, it is no different from striking a rock with an egg. You will definitely lose. The best possibility is that Lin Yi knows the difficulty and retreats. Anyway, he has already destroyed a few factions. It can be considered that he has taken revenge and settled the enmity for now. The worst outcome is that Lin Yi is severely injured or killed. The Hidden Devil lineage will be completely enraged and will send even more experts to destroy Lu Jianhong's alliance. At that time, how can our Orthodox sect stand by and do nothing? We will still have to interfere. Do you think this will cause a conflict between the Orthodox and demonic sects? Su Yin wiped the sweat off his forehead. He really had not thought so far ahead. Su Yin already knew about this information, but after studying it for so long, he still had no clue. On the other hand, Su Yin only heard it once and thought of the pros and cons. This was the difference between them. In the entire Great Light Temple, in terms of the overall situation, apart from Su Jing, who specialized in karma and reincarnation in the Karma Zen Hall, Su Yun was the strongest. Of course, to be precise, Su Yun was strong in all aspects. Su Yan composed himself and said, "Then, senior brother Su Yun, which side should we stand on? Do we need to help Lu Jianhong kill those demonic sects?" Su Yun waved his hand indifferently and said, "It doesn't matter whether we kill them or not. As long as the people of the Great Light Temple go there and make our stance clear, it will be fine. At that time, as long as Lin Yi is not an idiot, he will naturally retreat. The hidden devil lineage is in a state of disunity. Apart from Wei Shuya and a few other old demons as well as the new generation disciples like Lin Yi, the rest cannot withstand a single blow and are far from being a threat. Don't clash with them for now, and there is no need to care about them. Right now, both the Great Light Temple and the Celestial Master Abode have their eyes on the moon-worshipping cult. Yi Xiaonan is the true enemy." Su Yin said hesitantly, "Senior brother, could it be that you cannot defeat the Yi Xiaonan?" In Su Yan's mind, senior brother Su Yun's strength was unfathomable, even more so than Fang Zhang. Although Su Yan did not cultivate his spirit with true fire and could not figure out the strength of this realm, he still thought that Su Yun was very strong, terrifyingly strong. Previously, when the Blue Dragon Society's Butianan came looking for trouble because the Northern Yan's Heavenly Sin branch had been destroyed, it was Su Yun who had repelled him. It had taken him less than 10 moves. To outsiders, Su Yun was only a few ranks higher than Butianan on the excellence list. However, to Su Yin the difference in strength between the two was huge. Although the moon-worshipping cult master Yi Xiaonan was famous, Su Yin did not think that Su Yun was weaker than Yi Xiaonan. Su Yun extended a hand at Su Yin, spread his fingers and shook them. 50-50? Su Yin said hesitantly. Su Yun shook his head. 5 moves. I am confident that I can block 5 moves from Yi Xiaonan without being defeated or at a disadvantage. After 5 moves, success or failure will be determined by the heavens. This is my estimation before Yi Xiaonan mastered the Heaven-Mending Heart Sutra. Now that he has mastered it, everything is uncertain. Su Yin sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this. He never thought that Su Yun's evaluation of Yi Xiaonan would reach such a level. Could it be that another great demon like Dugu Weiwa would appear in the Jianghu? Su Yin shook his head and cast this terrifying thought aside. He asked, "Senior brother Su Yun, then who should my Great Light Temple send?" Actually, the most suitable person to represent my Great Light Temple is Zhong Xian. However, he was defeated by Chu Xiu and is currently cultivating in seclusion. It is not good for me to interrupt his cultivation. Su Yun casually waved his hand and said, "Let Su Xing go. Coincidentally, there is nothing going on in the Dharma court recently. He is very free." Su Yin said hesitantly, "Let junior brother Su Xing go?" However, he was heavily injured by Lin Ye's 7-demon saber in the minor mortal sky. In addition to his fiery temper, I am afraid that he will fight with Lin Yi. Su Yun said with an indifferent expression, "The righteous path does not want to have a conflict with the hidden devil line now. However, this does not mean that we are afraid of the hidden devil line. If that Lin Yi is smart, he will know when to retreat. The two sides will not even meet. On the other hand, if he insists on going, then it will be a good lesson for the hidden devil line. We do not care if they stay underground. If they dare to show themselves, then we will beat them down again." Chapter 604. Lu Jianhong arranged for the alliance to be in Red Maple Valley, which was not far from Red Leaf Manor. Now that Red Leaf Manor was under the control of Chu Xiu's men, they naturally could not choose to be there. Moreover, the terrain of Red Leaf Manor was not very convenient. Eastern Cheese Lin and County produced maple trees. The reason why Red Leaf Manor was named so was that it was built in a maple forest. Every autumn, the entire manor would be wrapped in red leaves. It was the same for Red Maple Valley. It was full of maple trees. Now that it was autumn, the leaves of these maple trees were red and shiny. For some reason, there was a hint of evil blood color. However, no one was paying attention to this scene at the moment. There were thousands of warriors in Red Maple Valley, and they were all elites from various forces. As the initiator, Lu Jianhong welcomed them with a smile at the entrance of the valley. However, the others did not realize that Lu Jianhong's smile contained a hint of helplessness and coldness. At this moment, a middle-aged warrior led a group of disciples into Red Maple Valley. He even greeted Lu Jianhong, who was at the entrance of the valley. "Brother Lu, we haven't seen each other for many years. I didn't expect you to have stepped into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. This is really a cause for celebration. This time, with you leading the alliance, we will definitely catch all the villains of the Demon Dao in one fell swoop." Lu Jianhong smiled and said, "Clan Master Son, you flatter me. If I wasn't forced, I wouldn't want to stand out and become enemies with the entire Hidden Devil clan. After all, they are a huge force." Clan Master Sun snorted and said, "What Hidden Devil clan? They are just a bunch of rats that bully the weak and fear the strong. Back then, it was not only our ancestors who participated in the annihilation of the Demon Dao Alliance in Nine Heaven Mountain. There was also the Great Light Temple in Sword King City. How are they going to take revenge on those people? They only know how to pick on the weak." After complaining for a while, Clan Master Sun walked into the valley. At this moment, a few more groups of warriors came. Among them there were warriors from Eastern Qi who knew Lu Jianhong. After chatting for a while, someone asked curiously, "Clan Master Lu, where are your younger brother Lu Jianyuan and your son? Why don't I see them?" Lu Jianhong revealed an unnatural smile and said, "They're all guarding the Red Leaf Manor. I'm also afraid of being ambushed by the Yinma clan, so I've placed a large portion of my forces to guard the manor." When the others heard what Lu Jianhong said, they did not suspect anything. Moreover, some people noticed that the disciples of the Red Leaves Manor seemed to be much stronger than before. Moreover, most of them were unfamiliar faces. However, no one asked about this. If they asked about this matter, it would seem like they couldn't bear to see the Red Leaf Manor doing well, and couldn't bear to see the Red Leaf Manor becoming stronger. Of course, there were quite a few people who had this kind of mentality. It was true that the Red Leaf Manor was strong, but among so many forces, there were still some forces that were not weaker than the Red Leaf Manor. When Lu Jianhong's news came out, they began to regret it. Why didn't they think of such a good idea? Not only could they get through the crisis, but they could also accumulate fame and eventually become the leader of the alliance. The benefits were simply unimaginable. It was a pity that this kind of thing was only useful to the initiator. If they still used this method, they would be making a fool of themselves by imitating others. Moreover, the enemy was right in front of them. If they were to fight amongst themselves over such a matter, they would be too stupid. However, although they wouldn't fight amongst themselves, they were still very interested in the distribution of power and benefits during the alliance. Feeling that most of the people had arrived, Lu Jianhong directly walked up to the highest platform in the center of the Red Maple Valley. He was immediately surrounded by warriors who had rushed over from various places. Looking at the people around him, Lu Jianhong said in a deep voice, "Everyone, the Yinma clan has already risen again. They want to take revenge for the enmity from 300 years ago. Many of the forces that were born in the same place as us have already fallen into the hands of the Yinma clan. Now that I've gathered everyone here, I want to gather everyone's strength to get through this calamity together. 300 years ago, we joined forces to kill the Nine Heaven Mountain Demon Alliance. Now, we can also join forces to get through this calamity. I know that everyone must have used your connections to seek help from those large sections. However, it's better to rely on ourselves than to rely on others. Instead of waiting for others to save us, it's better for us to save ourselves." As soon as he finished speaking, someone below immediately shouted, "Well said." However, before Lu Jianhong could echo, an old man below stood up and said calmly, "Manor Master Lu is right. It's better to rely on ourselves than to rely on others. Others may not say anything, but I, an old man, am in favor of this alliance." Seeing that the old man had stepped forward, the people around him immediately made way for him, their eyes filled with respect. Among the group of people from 300 years ago, there were very few who could step into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm. Lu Jianhong was the only one who was in his prime. However, there were other old martial Dao Grandmasters too. The current patriarch of the northern Yan-Yang clan fort, Yang Guiyuan, was one of them. However, this Yang clan patriarch was really old. He had not appeared in the pugilistic world for more than 10 years. To be precise, even in the Yang clan fort, not many disciples had seen him. The Yang clan patriarch had always been in closed-door training, but it was not for cultivation. Instead, he wanted to preserve his limited lifespan by nourishing his qi and blood. If not for the fact that this matter concerned the safety of the Yang clan fort, the Yang clan patriarch would definitely not show up. Among the people present, in terms of strength, Lu Jianhong, who was in his prime, was definitely the strongest. However, in terms of experience, no one present could compare to the Yang clan patriarch. Everyone had to address him as senior. At this moment, Lu Jianhong also cupped his hands at the Yang clan patriarch and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Senior Yang." Just as Lu Jianhong was about to continue speaking, the Yang clan patriarch suddenly waved his hand and said, "Hold on, Manor Master Lu, can you give me some time to answer some of my questions?" Lu Jianhong frowned slightly, then said, "Senior Yang, please speak." The Yang clan patriarch said slowly, "Manor Master Lu, it's a good thing that you want to form an alliance to resist the Hidden Devil clan. However, an alliance cannot be formed with just a few words. There are many things that need to be discussed. For example, since this is an alliance, there naturally needs to be an alliance leader. The alliance leader needs to deploy forces and be fair. Moreover, the alliance cannot be decided by the alliance leader alone. It also needs other people to help deploy and make some decisions, isn't that right?" As soon as the Yang clan patriarch finished speaking, there was a sudden silence. Everyone was experienced in the pugilistic world, and there were no fools among them. They easily understood the unspoken meaning in the Yang clan patriarch's words. He wanted to distribute power. It was true that the alliance was proposed by Lu Jianhong. It was fine if he wanted to be the alliance leader, but this alliance was not something that he could decide alone. With the Yang clan patriarch's status, if he joined the alliance, would he still listen to the orders of a junior like him? He would definitely have to share some of the power. What about the other people who were close to Lu Jianhong in terms of strength and fame? Of course, they also wanted some power. In short, just as the Yang clan patriarch had said, the alliance was a very complicated matter. It was not something that could be decided with just a few words. With benefits in front of them, even if danger was not far from them, this group of people's hearts were still not united. Lu Jianhong looked at the crowd below expressionlessly. He sneered in his heart. At the same time, he felt very sad. Previously, he felt a little apologetic that he could not get over this hurdle. However, now that he saw this group of people, Lu Jianhong suddenly thought it through. With the strength of Lin Yi and the entire Hidden Devil clan, it was simply a piece of cake to deal with this group of people who were like a plate of loose sand. At this time, they were still scheming, fighting for power, and reaping benefits for themselves. If this group of people did not die, who would? Everyone looked at Lu Jianhong standing on the stage without saying a word. Everyone was puzzled. What did Lu Jianhong mean by this? The Yang clan patriarch also frowned and said, "Manor Master Lu, tell us, what exactly are you thinking? Even if you don't agree with this old man's opinion, you have to come up with a plan." Everyone present thought that Lu Jianhong did not want others to share his power as the alliance leader, which was why he was angry. However, Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "Are you ready?" Everyone present was instantly stunned. What was ready? What did they prepare? "I've been ready for a long time. I just wanted to let you see the true colors of this group of people. Manor Master Lu, I've said it before. The so-called good reputation and infamy are actually not important. Prestige is the most important. If you had the ability to crush them today, would this group of idiots dare to openly oppose you and want to share your power?" As the voice spread, Chu Xiu walked up the stage step by step from the back. Suddenly there was a dead silence. Everyone looked at Chu Xiu, their eyes filled with extreme shock and fear. In West Chu, Chu Xiu had already killed quite a number of people, and the news had already spread. Of course, they knew what kind of image Lin Yi of the Hidden Devil clan had. In the end, Lin Yi, who should have been in West Chu, appeared here and stood openly with Lu Jianhong. Even an idiot would know what exactly had happened. The Yang clan patriarch pointed at Lu Jianhong while trembling and scolded angrily, "Lu Jianhong, you actually colluded with the demonic path to frame us. Damn it, damn it, you don't deserve to be a son." The others had never expected that Lu Jianhong, the manor master of Red Leaves Manor, who was also the most powerful among them, would actually collude with the demonic path to frame them. Lu Jianhong said expressionlessly, "I was forced to do so." Everyone present didn't care so much and started scolding Lu Jianhong. At this moment, Chu Xiu struck out with his palm and hit Lu Jianhong's back. In an instant, Lu Jianhong fell to the ground lifeless. Everyone present was stunned. Didn't this guy collude with the demonic path? Why was he killed too? Chu Xiu spread out his hands and said, "The demonic path doesn't like traitors either. I just lied to him. Since you all hate him so much, I'll send you down now. When you're down there, you can continue to seek revenge from him." Chapter 605. In the Red Maple Valley, the red leaves were like fire, and the murderous intent soared to the heavens. Chu Xiu had already set up a killing array here in advance. The warriors who entered the Red Maple Valley were like turtles in a jar, and no one could escape. As Chu Xiu waved his hand, the entire Red Maple Valley lit up with the radiance of the array. The disciples of the Red Leaf Manor who had received the crowd earlier also displayed an extremely powerful aura. They guarded the surroundings to prevent the crowd from escaping. The elites of the Yinma clan were not weak, and there were many warriors who were good at all kinds of miscellaneous things such as array formations. Although the killing array they had set up was not very strong, it was at least enough to kill warriors who were below the unity of heaven and man realm. As the array revolved, a five-colored radiance soared to the heavens. There were raging flames burning the sky, saber lights scattering and water poison entering the body. This was a standard 5 elements killing array. Its power wasn't amazing, but it wasn't weak either. Most importantly, this array didn't have too many weaknesses. Furthermore, it had 5 array cores. If you broke one of them, the other 4 would continue to operate. The moment the array was activated, there was a burst of shrill cries. Some of the weaker warriors were killed on the spot by this killing array. At this moment, the Yang family's patriarch shouted, "Don't run around. Gather together and rush towards the entrance of the valley. We can only survive if we rush out." The Yang family's patriarch could be considered an experienced man. He did not panic in the face of danger and immediately thought of the most suitable way to deal with it. However, Chu Xiu had set it up for so long. If they were to scatter just like that, wouldn't it be a joke? At the entrance of the valley, Zhao Qingping was holding the devil's spear, while Luo Sansong was holding the ghost head beheading blade. There were more than 20 people behind them, all of whom were unity of heaven and man realm warriors. It could be said that Chu Xiu's most elite men were here. After Chu Xiu dealt with Lu Jianhong, he asked Zhao Qingping to rush to Eastern Qi. After seeing Lin Ye's arrangements in Eastern Qi, Zhao Qingping had to admit that Senior Wei had made the right choice in choosing Lin Yi. If it were him, Zhao Qingping would only think of ways to increase the speed of his attacks. He would still have to exterminate the sects one by one. He estimated that before he could even finish off 1/3 of the sects, the righteous sects would intervene. Now, with Lin Ye's plan, almost everyone on the list had gathered in Maple Valley, waiting to be captured in one fell swoop. Chu Xiu walked towards the crowd step by step. His hands formed seals, and his psychic energy turned into zither music that drifted away. Any martial artist who heard the rhythm would either scream in pain, or bleed from the 7 apertures of their heads. They would be killed by Chu Xiu's soul-suppressing Hades song. Chu Xiu did not waste his energy on the rest of the low-level cultivators, he just stared at the Yang family old ancestor in the crowd. He was the only martial Dao master here. As long as he killed him first, it would be much easier to deal with the others later on. Although the Yang family old ancestor was old, he was a martial Dao master in the past. He had fought in the Jianghu for half his life and had a lot of experience in fighting. At this moment, sensing Chu Xiu's murderous intent directed at him, the Yang family old ancestor clenched his teeth. However, he did not face Chu Xiu. Instead, he ignored the other martial artists below and even the martial artists of the Yang family fort. He released all his gang energy, turned into a green stripe and fled toward the exit of the valley. Although one's cultivation would increase with time, one's physical body would deteriorate with time. The patriarch of the Yang family thought that he had accumulated enough experience, but he was still not confident in facing someone like Lin Yi who had once killed a martial Dao grandmaster. Even though he only had a little more than 10 years to live, he still did not want to die. Seeing this, Chu Xiu could not help but shake his head. Sure enough, there were all kinds of people in the Jianghu. The first patriarch of the Wang family that he destroyed was only at the unity of heaven and man realm. Even though he knew that he was no match for Chu Xiu, he still wanted to stop Chu Xiu with his life and fight for a chance of survival for his family. However, the Yang family old ancestor chose to escape by himself, leaving his own disciples behind. The gap between them was really not small. However, since Chu Xiu had made a move, how could he let the Yang family old ancestor leave alive? It was fine to let some low-level disciples go since they could not affect the overall situation. But this time, people like the patriarch and sect leader must die, let alone a martial Dao master like the Yang family old ancestor. Chu Xiu's hands were like a bow pulled to a full moon. His powerful psychic force condensed into an arrow, and with his spirit as the bow, he shot it out. The powerful psychic force turned into a soul-destroying arrow and shot towards the Yang family old ancestor. The spiritual pressure shocked the Yang family old ancestor, who was fleeing in front, and he immediately burst out with Gang Qi, wanting to turn around to defend himself. But when he turned around, he found that Chu Xiu's arrow was actually a soul-destroying arrow that was aimed directly at his spirit. At the moment when the Gang Qi defense failed, the Yang family old ancestor frantically condensed the little blood essence in his body, transforming it into boundless blood qi in an attempt to intercept the arrow, but it still failed. The soul-destroying arrow pierced his body, and he let out a painful cry. For martial artists who did not know spiritual secret techniques, they would only simply use the majestic power of qi and blood to resist the attack of the opponent's spirit secret technique. Although the effect was uncertain, it still had a certain effect. However, for the current Yang family old ancestor, his own qi and blood had already declined. It was simply wishful thinking to use that pitiful qi and blood to resist Chu Xiu's soul-destroying arrow. The invisible arrow penetrated the Yang family old ancestor's mind, and his psychic force suddenly burst out. In an instant, the Yang family old ancestor's mouth and nose were bleeding, and his aura was extremely weak. His body involuntarily fell to the ground. Chu Xiu stepped out, and with a punch, he used the heaven-extinguishing earth-annihilating oblivion-killing fist to the extreme. At this time, the Red Maple Valley was full of blood and killing intent. Using the heaven-extinguishing earth-annihilating oblivion-killing fist in this situation, its power was 3 times stronger than usual. This fist technique was most suitable to be used in a military formation. In a military formation overflowing with killing intent, the oblivion-killing fist could affect the entire battlefield's killing intent, and its power would even increase exponentially. At this time, as Chu Xiu blasted out his fist, the killing intent swept out, directly condensing into a huge tornado in mid-air, falling toward the Yang family old ancestor. The power of Chu Xiu's punch had exceeded the explosive power of some martial Dao grandmasters. The Yang family old ancestor could not care about his internal injuries. He spat out a mouthful of blood and burned the last trace of his blood essence. Drawing on the power of heaven and earth, he struck out with a palm that was like the vast sea, and the power was not weak. The killing fist shook the vast sea of Gang Qi, and the Yang family old ancestor's figure staggered back step by step. In the end, both his arms were directly shattered and his body flew out. But before he landed, a fist had already pierced through his entire chest. Chu Xiu threw the Yang family old ancestor's body aside, and casually flicked the blood on his hand. This was probably the weakest martial Dao grandmaster Chu Xiu had ever killed. It was simply too weak, so weak that it was beyond Chu Xiu's imagination. In order to survive until now, the Yang family old ancestor had used some unknown method to only nourish his own blood essence around his heart meridian, maintaining the most basic vitality. So at this time, when it came to a life-and-death battle, not only was his physical body declining, even his flesh and meridians had actually withered, and his explosive power was even weaker than some of the stronger unity of heaven and man realm martial artists. Just for the sake of living for a dozen more years, he had turned himself into something that was neither a human nor a ghost. He could only hide in a secluded room and live out his ignoble existence. Chu Xiu simply couldn't understand such actions. What was the difference between living like this and being dead? Following Chu Xiu's killing of the Yang family patriarch, the other cultivators present suffered an even greater defeat. They seemed to have lost all will to fight, only wanting to escape. However, the result was another round of slaughter. After a while, Zhao Qingping and Luo Sansong walked over with blood all over their bodies. Although the two of them looked tired, they were much more energetic. Luo Sansong held the ghost head beheading blade and laughed, "Awesome! Previously I was so aggrieved down there every day. Today I finally had a good time killing." At this time, whether it was Luo Sansong, Zhao Qingping, or the other martial artists of the Yinma clan, they could be said to be truly convinced by Chu Xiu. Sometimes, even if you used thousands of tricks, it would not be as effective as real strength. If anyone stood in Chu Xiu's position, they would not be able to complete the task so beautifully. Moreover, they had also seen Chu Xiu's real strength. Lu Jianhong, a martial Dao grandmaster in his prime, was easily defeated by Chu Xiu, and an old martial Dao grandmaster like the Yang family old ancestor could not even last a few moves in Chu Xiu's hands. He was easily killed like a baby. At this moment, don't bother about seniority. In the face of absolute strength, seniority was simply a joke. Zhao Qingping cupped his fists respectfully at Chu Xiu and said, "Sir, 99% of the martial artists who entered Red Maple Valley have been killed. Only a few escaped using some strange methods. Should we chase after them?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "There's no need to chase after them. It doesn't matter if a few escaped. Wuxia only said to annihilate those forces for revenge, but he did not say to capture them all in one go. Naturally, there was no need to be so detailed. Lu Jianhong also stood up at this time. He lowered his head and walked to Chu Xiu's side in a daze. Chu Xiu promised Lu Jianhong to put on a show with him. Now that someone had escaped, he would naturally bring back the news of Lu Jianhong's death. Manor Lord Lu, do you regret it? Chu Xiu asked without turning his head. Lu Jianhong shook his head and said, I don't regret it. Since I have embarked on this path, there is no chance for me to regret it. Lu Jianhong is already dead. From now on, Red Leaf Manor has nothing to do with me. The only one alive now is the hidden demon faction swordsman, Lu Hongye. After experiencing this, Lu Jianhong, no, it should be said that Lu Hongye's state of mind had undergone an earth-shattering change. Just as he said, Lu Jianhong was already dead, and the only one alive was Lu Hongye. As for whether Lu Jianhong would hate him in his heart, Chu Xiu was not worried at all. As long as he could ensure that his strength would always suppress the other party, Chu Xiu was not afraid of anyone's betrayal. Chapter 606. Outside the Red Leaf Valley it was quiet. However, even after a few days, the pungent smell of blood still lingered in the air. Many people had gathered outside the valley. There were Su Xing from the Great Light Temple, warriors from the Chunyang Dao sect and the True Martial Arts sect, as well as people from the Xiaohou clan, the Shangshuaying clan and other large Eastern Qi sections. It had been a few days since the battle at the Red Maple Valley. It was not that Su Xing and the others were slow, but that they had not expected Chu Xiu to do such a thing. They had thought that when Lu Jianhong had gathered everyone in the Red Maple Valley to form an alliance, Lin Yi would still be wandering around the land of West Chu with his men. They had not expected that everything had been a trap from the beginning. Standing in front of the valley, Su Xing said with a dark expression, "We're too late. No, I should say that we've all been fooled." Everyone present had ugly expressions on their faces. They had indeed been fooled, and they had been fooled very badly. The large sects had not made a move at the beginning because the commotion that Chu Xiu had caused was very small. It was not a big deal for a young disciple to bring more than 20 people to seek revenge on those small forces. They had only thought that the Yinma clan was looking for someone to vent their anger on. In the end, who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, Lin Yi would actually do such a big thing while they had not made a decision? In one night, the family heads, sect leaders and other elites of dozens of forces had been annihilated. Although these forces still had some bloodline descendants, without these elites, the forces themselves had been crippled. Everyone else looked gloomy, especially the martial arts forces in the land of Eastern Qi. Because they had not been paying attention, Lin Yi had done such a big thing right under their noses. He had killed so many people, which was a great humiliation to them. Let's go in and take a look. An old monk with white hair and beard sighed and recited the Ksitigarbha Sutra, as if he was helping those who had been killed to ascend to the afterlife. This person was the eminent monk of the Subodhi monastery, Siddhartha. Although he was not famous in the Jianghu, as long as he was a grandmaster from the Subodhi monastery, he would not be a weakling. There were still a few shivering warriors in front of them. They were all survivors who had escaped from Red Maple Valley. If it weren't for them, no one would have known that such a big thing had happened in Red Maple Valley. The group stepped into Red Maple Valley with those people, and the pungent smell of blood instantly assaulted their nostrils, causing their expressions to become even more unsightly. Su Xing's expression was unsightly as he gazed at the corpses that covered the ground. How exactly did Lin Yi do it? There are over 1,000 experts here. Even if they were all pigs, it's impossible to kill them all so quickly, right? One of the survivors said in a sobbing tone, "It's that bastard Lu Jianhong. He had long surrendered to the Hidden Devil clan. After luring us here, he set up a killing formation and ambushed a large number of experts to kill us. Senior Yang of the Yang clan fortress was killed before he could even block 3 moves from Lin Yi. Fortunately, I had a burrowing formation board left behind by my ancestor, so I was lucky enough to escape with my life. Master Su Xing, you have to seek justice for us." Upon hearing this, everyone's expressions changed slightly. Although he was just an old martial Dao grandmaster, it was already shocking enough to kill him in 3 moves. Lin Ye's strength was indeed worthy of his ranking on the Longhu list. Su Xing snorted coldly, "A demon who surrendered to the demonic Dao. This Lu Jianhong deserves to be killed more than those from the demonic Dao." At this moment, a warrior wearing a black robe with cloud patterns shook his head and said, "There's no need to kill him. Lu Jianhong is already dead. He was killed by Lin Yi. Actually, the Shangshui Ying clan has already investigated this matter. The Red Leaf Manor is also a victim. Lin Yi had long targeted the Red Leaf Manor and Lu Jianhong. He took down the Red Leaf Manor at lightning speed and threatened Lu Jianhong to help Lin Yi set up the trap with the lives of all the Red Leaf Manor disciples. However, in the end, Lin Yi still lied to him and killed him at the last moment. Su Xing snorted coldly and said, if he didn't agree, only his family would have suffered. In the end, he took the side of the evildoer, causing dozens of forces and thousands of people to die. Even if he's dead, he's still an accomplice. Most of the people present scoffed at Su Xing's idea. The monks from the Great Light Temple were just saying things that were easier said than done. In fact, from their point of view, it was easy for them to understand Lu Jianhong. The lives of one's family were in the hands of the other party. Unless it was a saint who cut off his own flesh to feed the eagles, almost everyone would choose the latter. Moreover, looking at the scene before them, apart from remaining silent, there was nothing else they could do. Although they all belonged to the righteous side of the martial arts circle, in reality, there was no alliance in the righteous martial arts circle. They had their own grudges and it was impossible for them to join forces to find trouble with the Hidden Devil clan because of this matter. Previously, their plan was actually very simple. If the Hidden Devil clan killed too many people, they would come forward to warn them so that they would restrain themselves. The alliance that Lu Jianhong organized was not weak, so they would come forward to befriend them and maintain a certain level of contact with them. In the end, all the people were dead and Lin Yi even went on a killing spree in the Red Maple Valley. They were just like spectators. It was already too late to do anything. The middle-aged man from the Shangshuaying clan was the first to cough and say, this matter is very serious. I need to report it to the clan leader. With that, the man from the Shangshuaying clan immediately left. The stance of the 9 super clans was very ambiguous. Regardless of whether they were righteous or demonic, most of them were thinking about their own interests. Now that everyone was dead, it did not affect the interests of the Ying clan. Of course, he did not want to stay any longer. When the others saw the attitude of the Shangshuaying clan, they also found various reasons to turn around and leave. The people who died had nothing to do with them. It was not worthwhile for them to fight against the Hidden Devil clan to avenge them. They would only act without hesitation when the Hidden Devil clan touched their interests. Moreover, as Su Yun had said, the most alarming thing in the entire diabolism was not the Hidden Devil clan, which had always been hiding in the dark. It was the moon-worshipping cult. Ever since the great battle between the righteous and demonic on Mount Fuyu, the moon-worshipping cult had always shown an unparalleled attitude. It even somewhat suppressed the power of the Taoist master mansion in West Chu. It could be said to be the #1 sect in the diabolism. Although the moon-worshipping cult had not developed to the level of the Kunlun devil cult in the past, it was enough to make the righteous martial arts circle vigilant. Therefore, for some experts in the righteous martial arts circle with long-term knowledge, they would not take the initiative to target the Hidden Devil clan. It was precisely because of the existence of the Hidden Devil clan that the moon-worshipping cult could not dominate the entire diabolism. Otherwise, without internal strife, the diabolism would be even more terrifying. Subodhi Monastery's Siddhartha sat on the ground and sent off the warriors who had died in Red Maple Valley. 2 older disciples of Subodhi Monastery followed behind him and tidied up the corpses. Only Su Xing did not leave. His expression was terrifyingly gloomy. If someone else had been the mastermind, Su Xing would have temporarily put everything aside even if he was furious. He would have returned to the Great Light Temple to report to Su Yun and the others first. However, after hearing that Lin Yi was the leader of this group of people, Su Xing did not want to go back so soon. In Xiaofen Heaven, he, a martial arts master who had been famous for a long time, had been defeated by a junior like Lin Yi. This was a great humiliation for Su Xing. He had always wanted to find an opportunity to take revenge. Su Xing turned his gaze to the few survivors from before and said in a deep voice, "Do you know if there are any forces that did not participate in Red Maple Valley's alliance and were spared?" The few people looked at each other and nodded. There are 2 or 3 forces that did not come. They were either too far away and could not make it in time, or they had the protection of a large sect and thought that they would be safe. Su Xing waved his hand and said, "That's good. Take me to those forces. Since Lin Yi is going to take revenge for what happened 300 years ago, he will definitely not let these few surviving forces go." When they heard that Su Xing wanted to take the initiative to look for Lin Yi, they immediately panicked. Actually, they were all in favor of Su Xing looking for Lin Yi. After all, Su Xing was taking revenge for them. However, after experiencing the incident at Red Maple Valley, Lin Yi was like a demon to them. They really didn't want to face that demon again. Su Xing could not help but frown when he saw their expressions. What's wrong? You guys are not willing to go? Don't you want to take revenge for your sect's elders? When they felt the violent aura from Su Xing, they laughed bitterly and said, "We are willing." Looking at Su Xing's attitude, if they dared to say that they were not willing, Su Xing might do something. At this moment, the disciples who came with Su Xing pulled him back. Uncle Master Su Yun only asked us to come and intimidate the Hidden Devil clan. He didn't say that we should take the initiative to attack them. Before they came, Su Yun had already said that if Lin Yi took the initiative to attack after the people from the Great Light Temple arrived, they would naturally attack as well. However, they were too late and the people were already dead. If they attacked Lin Yi, apart from provoking a conflict between the Great Light Temple and the Hidden Devil clan, what else was there? However, it was obvious that Su Xing could not bear to listen to these things. He snorted coldly and said, "Senior brother Su Yun also did not say that I am not allowed to attack the Hidden Devil clan. Don't be noisy. Lin Yi killed thousands of people in Red Maple Valley. He is extremely ruthless. If the Great Light Temple does not care about this, who will? You don't have to go. Go back and report what happened here to the temple. I will take people to surround Lin Yi." When he finished speaking, Su Xing immediately left with those people. He did not give the disciples of the Great Light Temple a chance to speak again. Chapter 607. In the Battle of Red Maple Valley, Chu Xiu had tricked and killed thousands of experts, causing dozens of factions to be destroyed. This was definitely a major event in the world. As the news spread, Chu Xiu took his people back to West Chu. Chu Xiu had dealt with 99% of the factions on the list, but this time, there were still 3 factions in the Red Maple Valley Alliance that had not arrived. Of the 2 factions, one in the western regions, one in the southern barbarians, were not very strong. Because they were far away, they had not received the news at all. For these 2 forces, Chu Xiu directly sent a few Unity of Heaven and Man Realm martial artists, asking them to take a trip with their people and completely eliminate these 2 forces. As to the last faction, they were fearless because they had found a backer, the Ba Mountain Sword sect. This faction was the Xiang family of the Ba prefecture of West Chu. They were not far from the Ba Mountain Sword sect. A daughter of the Xiang family was married to the son of the sect leader of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. The 2 were in-laws. Over the years, many of the Xiang family's disciples had cultivated in the Ba Mountain Sword sect, so the relationship between the Xiang family and the Ba Mountain Sword sect could be said to be very close. The Ba Mountain Sword sect was located on West Chu's Ba Mountain. The scenery was grand and beautiful, with peaks reaching into the clouds. Could be said to be a treasure land. But the Ba Mountain Sword sect's own strength was not worthy of a treasure land like Ba Mountain. The Ba Mountain Sword sect was called a sword sect, but it was not one of the 5 great sword sects, but one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. Just from this, one could see the power of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. The 8-character sword art of the Ba Mountain Sword sect was very famous in the world. The Ba Mountain swordsmen had always been famous for their fast swords. But unfortunately, no matter how fast the sword was, it was easy to be countered by many martial arts in the later stages. So the warriors of the Ba Mountain Sword sect were not weak in the early stages, for example, from the Khanate realm to the 5 energies gathering. But when they reached the unity of the world, they were much weaker. And when they reached the martial grandmaster level, the martial arts of the Ba Mountain Sword sect appeared mediocre. In the history of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, there were some astounding people who comprehended extreme speed from the sword path of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, and even reached the level of time and karma. Pity, such people were rare, and this kind of sword path could not be passed down. So in this generation, the Ba Mountain Sword sect was actually very weak. At this time, in the conference hall of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, the sect master of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, Chen Jiankong, sat on the main seat with a frown. Chen Jiankong's appearance was extremely unique. Although he wasn't ugly, his cheeks were long and narrow, and his arms were equally long. When they hung down, they were even close to his knees. Coupled with his slightly hunched back, he resembled an ape. He was skilled in all of the Ba Mountain Sword sect's 8-word sword art. When he attacked, he could use his energy to control 8 swords to cast the Ba Mountain Sword sect's sword formation. Together with his unique appearance, he had the nickname of the 8 Arms Ape. Right now, in the entire Ba Mountain Sword sect, Chen Jiankong was the only martial grandmaster, and the strongest in the sect. A dozen people sat below him, all of them unity of the world. Other than the slightly nervous Xiang family patriarch, The others were all elders of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. In the Ba Mountain Sword sect, as long as you reached unity of the world, then no matter your seniority, you would be made an elder. Because of this, the Ba Mountain Sword sect had been laughed at by other sects, and thought that the elders of the Ba Mountain Sword sect were too worthless. In other sects, even if they only had one martial Dao grandmaster in their sect, the title of an elder was not given out casually. One must have sufficient qualifications and strength to be conferred the title of an elder. But it had to be said that the disciples of the Ba Mountain Sword sect felt proud that the Ba Mountain Sword sect was so casually giving an elder. When you went out to roam the world, if you called yourself a disciple of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, or a steward of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, it would not sound as good as being an elder of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. This was like Chu Xiu's previous life. A small company with 3 to 5 people would have a chairman and a general manager. What the Ba Mountain Sword sect was worried about was the revenge of the hidden demon clan. Previously, the Ba Mountain Sword sect had been willing to protect the Xiang family because the Xiang family had a deep relationship with the Ba Mountain Sword sect. The two were in-laws, and many of the Xiang family's disciples were cultivating in the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Even the Xiang family's own methods were given to the Ba Mountain Sword sect for reference. It could be said that the Xiang family was a branch of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Now that the Xiang family was in danger, if the Ba Mountain Sword sect did not do anything, then the disciples would be disappointed. Also, the power that Lin Yi had displayed back then was not very strong. It was just him and 20 other demonic martial artists. With the power of Ba Mountain Sword sect, they could completely stop them. But now, the battle at Red Maple Valley had exposed the full power of Lin Yi's subordinates. His number of unity of the world martial artists was double that of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. This caused the Ba Mountain Sword sect to feel great pressure. So this time, the Ba Mountain Sword sect's conference was to discuss how to deal with this matter. Should the Ba Mountain Sword sect protect the Xiang family or not, and if so, how to protect them? In the silence, Ba Mountain Sword sect's teacher Tsun suddenly said slowly, "In my opinion, this matter is much easier to resolve. Karma and retribution are things that have been discussed in the martial arts for a long time. The karma that some people sowed in the past naturally has to be paid by some people themselves. 300 years ago, some people used this karma to obtain a fortuitous encounter and develop to this level. Now that someone has come to ask for this karma, we can just return it. Why do we have to implicate the Ba Mountain Sword sect?" Teacher Tsun's words implied that he did not want to protect the Xiang family. Teacher Tsun had no enmity with the Xiang family, but he had enmity with the other elder of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, Peng Chong. The two had always been at odds. Peng Chong and the patriarch of the Xiang family were sworn brothers, and the two had a good relationship. At this time, Teacher Tsun was targeting the Xiang family, but in reality he was targeting Peng Chong. Hearing this, Peng Chong snorted coldly. "Teacher Tsun, what do you mean? You want to trap the Ba Mountain Sword sect in inhumanity and injustice? Dozens of the Xiang family disciples are cultivating in the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Brother Xiang has given the Xiang family's cultivation method to the Ba Mountain Sword sect. But now you say you want to hand over Brother Xiang and the entire Xiang family to have them fend off those demons alone. You can do such a thing that goes against morality, but the Ba Mountain Sword sect cannot. Also, if the Ba Mountain Sword sect does this, isn't it the same as bowing to the hidden demon faction and admitting defeat? What will the martial arts world think of the Ba Mountain Sword sect?" Teacher Tsun sneered and said, "All right, if you don't hand over the Xiang family, tell me, how will we fend off that Lin Yi? More than 200 elites of the hidden demon faction killed more than 1,000 people in Red Maple Valley. They have twice as many unity of the world martial artists than the Ba Mountain Sword sect. How will we fight? That Lin Yi is a martial artist of the younger generation, but he easily defeated Lu Jianhong of the Red Leaf Manor and killed the forefather of the Yang family in a few moves. With this kind of power, can you treat him as a unity of the world martial artist? Is morality more important or the Ba Mountain Sword sect more important? Tell me." "Peng Chong, if the Ba Mountain Sword sect is damaged because of this, you will be the eternal sinner of the Ba Mountain Sword sect." Peng Chong found a loophole in Teacher Tsun's words and hurriedly said, "What do you mean? Do you think the sect leader is not as good as that Lin Yi?" Teacher Tsun was about to retort when he heard Qin Jiankong shout from the seat of honor, "All of you shut up." Hearing this, Peng Chong and Teacher Tsun did not dare to argue anymore. As the only martial arts grandmaster of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, Qin Jiankong's prestige was very high. Looking at the people present, Qin Jiankong's brows furrowed tightly. Actually, excluding Teacher Tsun and Peng Chong's standpoint, both of their words were very reasonable. For the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, if they did not take care of the Xiang family, they would not only disappoint their own disciples, they would also be laughed at by outsiders. They would say that the Ba Mountain Sword Sect was cowardly and afraid of death. Before Lin Yi had shown his strength, the Ba Mountain Sword Sect had promised to protect the Xiang family. Now, seeing that the other had grown stronger, they were going back on their word. But if the Ba Mountain Sword Sect took care of this matter, then Qin Jiankong really did not have much confidence. While the Ba Mountain Sword Sect was much stronger than the Azure Water Sword Sect that had completely declined, facing the hidden demon lineage, even if it was just a young junior like Lin Yi. But after learning of the other's strength, Qin Jiankong did not have much confidence. At this time, the patriarch of the Xiang family gritted his teeth and knelt in front of Qin Jiankong. He said in a low voice, "Sect leader, please save the Xiang family this time. The Xiang family is willing to completely merge with the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. From now on, we will be loyal to the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, and will never betray it." In the past, the Xiang family had been close to the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, but they were two different factions. Now, if the Xiang family completely merged with the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, it would be a great increase in power for the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. Usually, Qin Jiankong would welcome such a thing with open arms. But now this was like a hot potato. Qin Jiankong did not know how to handle it. So Qin Jiankong did not directly agree. He rubbed his chin and said hesitantly, "About this." The patriarch of the Xiang family gritted his teeth and said directly, "Sect leader, the Xiang family once obtained a 3-colored spirit crystal when we attacked the 9 Heavens Demonic Tao Alliance. I am willing to offer it up. With the 3-colored spirit crystal as the eye of the formation, we can activate the Purple Sky Lightning Sword formation of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect to resist the hidden demon lineage." Hearing this, Qin Jiankong was slightly tempted. The so-called 3-colored spirit crystal was a crystal that could only form after being nurtured for thousands or even tens of thousands of years in a place rich in primal energies of the universe. It contained the purest energy of the 5 elements. The most precious of them was naturally the 5-colored spirit crystal. The Xiang family could take out a 3-colored spirit crystal. It was a great treasure. Most importantly, even if this spirit crystal was only 1 color, it was enough to activate the protective formation of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, the Purple Sky Lightning Sword formation. The rest naturally belonged to the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. Chapter 608. In order to save their lives, the Xiang family had given up all their territory. Right now, the Ba Mountain Sword Sect was their only hope. Qin Jiankong thought for a moment. He stood up and helped the Xiang family patriarch up. He chuckled and said, "Brother Xiang, you do not have to be like this. You and I are in-laws. If something happens to the Xiang family, the Ba Mountain Sword Sect will not ignore it." The Xiang family patriarch hurriedly thanked him with tears of gratitude, but inside he was sneering. If the Xiang family had not taken out all their trump cards this time, Qin Jiankong most likely would not have chosen to protect the Xiang family. Seeing this, Teacher Tsun hurriedly said, "Sect leader, no. If we choose to protect the Xiang family and become enemies with the hidden demon clan, even if the Purple Sky Lightning Sword formation can stop Lin Yi, what if it attracts more experts from the hidden sects?" Qin Jiankong said coolly, "Then it will be easy. If the hidden demon clan dares to send so many experts, the other righteous sects will not ignore it. Also, I am preparing to send a letter to the Celestial Master Abode. In Red Maple Valley, Lin Yi killed thousands of people with vicious methods. I believe the Celestial Master Abode has received the news long ago. If Lin Yi dares to come, I believe the Celestial Master Abode will not stand by. After all, the Ba Mountain Sword Sect has some relations with the Celestial Master Abode." Hearing Qin Jiankong say this, Teacher Tsun could not say anything more. But he felt slightly uneasy. The sect leader had been too careless, especially putting his hopes on the Celestial Master Abode. It was true that the Celestial Master Abode had relations with the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. Right now, the protective formation of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, the Purple Sky Lightning Sword formation, had been set up by the Celestial Master Abode and the experts of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. But later, the relationship between the Ba Mountain Sword Sect and the Celestial Master Abode had faded. For a period of time, the power of the Celestial Master Abode had declined greatly, and the Ba Mountain Sword Sect had produced an expert who comprehended the Time Sword path, so they were no longer so respectful to the Celestial Master Abode. But now, the Celestial Master Abode had risen again, and the Ba Mountain Sword Sect had returned to its original state. Would the Celestial Master Abode respond if they asked for help now? However, Qin Jiankong had already made up his mind, so it wasn't appropriate for Teacher Tsun to say anything further. 10 days later at the foot of Ba Mountain, Chu Xiu brought Luo Sansong and Zhao Qingping back to West Chu. He immediately brought people to Ba Mountain. The hidden demon clan had their own intelligence network. When Chu Xiu had hurried to the West Chu, someone had sent news to Chu Xiu that the Ba Mountain Sword Sect had decided to protect the Xiang family. At this time, all the members of the Xiang family were in the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. When Chu Xiu received the news, he was very surprised. Were Qin Jiankong and the elders of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect stupid? He actually made such a decision. In the battle at Red Maple Valley, Chu Xiu had exposed all of his power. Ba Mountain Sword Sect should know what they were capable of. Among the major sects in the songs of the martial world, Ba Mountain Sword Sect had been around for a long time, and could almost be ranked in the top. But in terms of power, while Ba Mountain Sword Sect was not the weakest, it was at the bottom. As long as Qin Jiankong wasn't muddle-headed, he ought to know exactly what sort of price Chu Xiu would pay to protect the Xiang clan, yet he still chose to do this. So, either Qin Jiankong was really stupid, or there was some secret that Chu Xiu wasn't aware of that caused Qin Jiankong to take the risk to protect the Xiang clan. But what it was not important. In front of absolute power, Chu Xiu could choose not to use his brain. In Chu Xiu's view, in this situation he did not need schemes and could use his fists to solve the problem. Looking at the grand and beautiful Ba Mountain, Chu Xiu couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The scenery of Ba Mountain is really good. The Ba Mountain Sword Sect has chosen a treasured land. At the side, Luo Sansong also sighed in agreement. Zhao Qingping felt slightly awkward. Treasured land, why did it sound like a tomb? While it could be put here, but coming from Lin Ye's mouth, he felt it was not a good thing. Chu Xiu and the others did not disguise their tracks. He led 200 people up Ba Mountain and headed straight for the Ba Mountain Sword Sect at the peak. The Ba Mountain Sword Sect had detected such a brazen presence long ago. The Ba Mountain Sword Sect disciples guarding the middle of the mountain did not even dare to stop them, and immediately ran to report to the sect leader in terror. When Chu Xiu came to the gates of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, the two Ba Mountain Sword Sect disciples holding swords did not flee in panic like the people on the mountain, but they both trembled in terror. The Ba Mountain Sword Sect was a major sect among the songs of the Jianghu. Their disciples should not be so cowardly. However, Chu Xiu's bloodlust during this period of time was a little too great. The battle at Red Maple Valley had directly buried the lives of over 1,000 martial artists. Furthermore, they weren't just random people, but the true elites of several dozen factions. Chu Xiu waved his hand and the people behind him stopped. Chu Xiu said coolly to the two people, "Please report that Lin Yi of the Hidden Demon faction has come to visit Qin Jiankong and sect leader Qin of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect." Seeing Chu Xiu be so polite, the two Ba Mountain Sword Sect martial artists stilled. Before, they had thought that this person who had killed so many recently would be a vicious person who would attack as soon as he came. They had not expected the other to be so polite. After a moment, the two disciples immediately turned around and wanted to report to Qin Jiankong. But before they could take a few steps, Qin Jiankong, who had received the news, arrived. Chu Xiu casually bowed to Qin Jiankong and said, "Sect leader Qin, it is our first time meeting. Nice to meet you." In reality, in terms of age, cultivation, and experience, Qin Jiankong was a senior. Chu Xiu's attitude was slightly disrespectful, very disrespectful. But both Chu Xiu's subordinates and the people of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect felt that Chu Xiu's attitude was normal. With Chu Xiu's strength and what he had done, no one present would treat Chu Xiu as a junior. Qin Jiankong bowed to Chu Xiu and said, "I have long heard of young Master Lin's name. Seeing you today, you are extraordinary." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "Sect leader Qin, let's not waste words. You should know why I have come this time." Qin Jiankong heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Lin Yi didn't come knocking on his door. Instead, he spoke in a calm manner. He had been afraid that Lin Yi was a madman who only knew how to kill without caring about anything. That would be difficult to deal with. But now it seemed that Lin Yi was reasonable. Since that was the case, it would be much easier to negotiate. So Qin Jiankong smiled and said, "I know what you mean, young Master Lin. In truth, the Ba Mountain Sword Sect also feels great regret about what happened 300 years ago. While our standpoints are different, I admire the 5 great sky fiends of the 9 Sky Mountain for daring to fight one against many. Their unwavering spirit is something I admire. The grievances between the Xiang family and the Hidden Demon faction happened 300 years ago. To put it bluntly, it has nothing to do with the current Xiang family. But there is truth in the saying that the karma of the past must be repaid by the present. The Xiang family is willing to give 80% of their wealth to buy their lives. They only hope that the hidden demon faction will let them go this time. While Qin Jiankong had promised to protect the Xiang family, their opponent was the entire hidden demon faction. Even if he was confident he could stop the people in front of him, he was not confident he could stop the other hidden demon experts from taking revenge. So if he could use some external items to get over this matter, that would be the best thing. But Chu Xiu shook his head without hesitation. Impossible. Elder Wei Shuya said that blood must be paid with blood. If the Xiang family does not want anyone to die, they must get over this matter. It is not so simple. However, since sect leader Qin has spoken, I can give you some face. The Xiang family does not need everyone to pay with blood. The ancestor of the Xiang family once killed 23 disciples of the hidden demon faction. The enmity of the past must be repaid tenfold. Now, as long as the Xiang family chooses 230 disciples to commit suicide, I will let the Xiang family go this time. Right, among those who commit suicide, there must be the patriarch of the Xiang family. Feeling Chu Xiu's gaze drift towards him, the patriarch of the Xiang family felt a chill and hurriedly hid behind Qin Jiankong. Qin Jiankong frowned. Young Master Lin, you are making things difficult. What is the difference between doing this and destroying the Xiang family? If 80% of their wealth is not enough, then the Xiang family is willing to hand over all their wealth. The Ba Mountain Sword sect is also willing to mediate and give young Master Lin a few sword formations as compensation. Is this possible? For a small family like the Xiang family, although they had a lot of people, they only had a little more than 100 direct descendants. If all of them committed suicide, the entire Xiang family wouldn't be enough to kill. What was the difference between this and exterminating the entire family? Chu Xiu stretched out a finger, shook his head and said, Sect leader Qin, you seem to be mistaken about something. I'm not discussing with you, nor am I bargaining with you. I have no grievances with your Ba Mountain Sword sect. You came out and I gave you face. I did not let the Xiang family die too badly, and not let the entire Xiang family die. This is my explanation to you. I gave you face. Now I have given you face, but you do not accept it. Then do not blame me for speaking harshly. Today the Xiang family must die, must be destroyed. There is no room for discussion. The Ba Mountain Sword sect had better not participate in this matter. Otherwise you will also die miserably. As soon as these words were spoken, Qin Jiankong's countenance instantly turned crimson red, and it was an expression of explosive rage. The other Ba Mountain Sword sect warriors also showed a hint of anger. Previously they had felt that this Lin Yi was not arrogant, and would at least be reasonable. Only now did they realize that this fellow was talking about *T reason. He was simply too arrogant. Qin Jiankong shouted angrily, Lin Yi, do not go too far. You killed enough people in the Battle of Red Maple Valley. Now, you want to kill everyone in the Ba Mountain Sword sect? The Ba Mountain Sword sect is not a place you can do as you please. Chapter 609. As one of the 7 sects and 8 schools, while the Ba Mountain Sword sect was weak, it still had some confidence. Previously, Qin Jiankong had been very polite to Chu Xiu because it meant that he did not want to fight over insignificant matters. But now Lin Yi did not give him any face at all, so Qin Jiankong did not need to be polite to him. Chu Xiu looked seriously at Qin Jiankong and said coolly, Sect leader Qin, have you really thought it through? The Xiang family is the Xiang family, and the Ba Mountain Sword sect is the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Are you really willing to sacrifice the entire Ba Mountain Sword sect for the Xiang family? Qin Jiankong snorted coldly. You Lin Yi cannot threaten the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, stubborn. If I had known this, I would not have wasted my breath. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu took a step forward and bellowed, kill. As Chu Xiu spoke, Zhao Qingping and Luo Sansong charged forward with their people. Right now, the direct descendants of the Xiang family were all in the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Their first target was the Xiang family. As to whether they would accidentally injure the people of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, that would depend on if the Ba Mountain Sword sect was sensible. Qin Jiankong snorted coldly. But he was prepared and did not fear that Lin Yi would suddenly attack. As Qin Jiankong waved his hand, multiple elders of the Ba Mountain Sword sect formed sword seals and channeled physical energy under their feet. In a flash, a wave of purple light rippled in front of the gates of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. In the end, the light turned into lightning swords. Countless lightning swords lay in front of the gates and exploded with a shocking presence. This was the purple cloud lightning sword formation of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. It had been created by the Thunder Masters of the Celestial Master Mansion and the Sword Masters of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. Maybe the ancestor of Ba Mountain Sword Sect knew that Ba Mountain Sword Sect was weak, and that in the future Ba Mountain Sword Sect would always be this weak. So when he set up this sword formation, he purposefully made this powerful sword formation into a defensive mode. While its offensive power was slightly weaker, it was stable. At least, it would not be so easy for warriors like Luo Sansong and Zhao Qingping to quickly destroy it. Qin Jiankong attacked first. His long and narrow arms held two long swords at the same time. He used the Purple Lightning Azure Light Sword and the Divine Lightning Sword of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect's 8-character sword method. One sword was extremely fast and the other, with the Divine Lightning power that could subdue evil and demons, slashed towards Chu Xiu with a boom. At the instant of contact, the devilish qi around Chu Xiu's body erupted with a bang, and it transformed into a boundless fist that drew along killing intent and baleful qi as it smashed down with a bang. A myriad of techniques were destroyed with a single punch, and its might was so formidable that even Qin Jiankong was surprised, and it was even to the extent that he had a familiar feeling about it. The eight-armed ape, Qin Jiankong, was not famous in the Jianghu, but he was not unknown either. But when the Jianghu people mentioned Qin Jiankong, they would only say that he was the sect leader of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect and nothing else. So most of the Jianghu people did not have much of an impression of Qin Jiankong. He was just the sect leader of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. In reality, since Qin Jiankong could become the sect leader of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect and a Grandmaster of the Sword, this proved that he had some power. Chu Xiu's punch was powerful and domineering. Not to mention his own power, the fist essence was slightly similar to Qin Qingdi's. Qin Jiankong would not leave the Ba Mountain Sword Sect most of the time, but he was a reputable person in the West Chu. He had seen and interacted with the experts of the West Chu. He had a very deep impression of Qin Qingdi. At this time, from Lin Ye's punch, he could see a domineering fist essence similar to Qin Qingdi's. This shocked Qin Jiankong slightly. But this Lin Yi was not Qin Qingdi. With the same punch, Qin Qingdi could only make Qin Jiankong submit. But this Lin Yi was not qualified. The Divine Firmament Lightning Sword drew the power of thunder. Amidst the lightning, it slashed towards Chu Xiu's murderous and fiendish punch. The Divine Firmament Lightning Sword of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect borrowed much of the thunder from the Celestial Master Abode. This was a technique created when the ancestor of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect and the Celestial Master Abode had been on good terms. The two sides had tested each other and created this technique. The power of the Divine Firmament Lightning Sword could suppress evil and kill demons. It had a certain restraining effect on Chu Xiu's own demonic energy. Under the roar of thunder, it shattered the demonic energy of Chu Xiu's punch. The other sword was like a lightning snake. The sword energy curved and slashed towards Chu Xiu at an unbelievable angle. Chu Xiu's punch was still there, but if he did not choose to stop, Qin Jiankong's sword could seriously injure Chu Xiu. Raising an eyebrow, Chu Xiu's body moved slightly and perfectly dodged the azure sword energy. No matter how the sword energy changed directions, it could not even touch Chu Xiu's skin. In front of Chu Xiu, things like speed were a joke. No matter how fast, could it be faster than karma? The Ba Mountain Sword Sect was famed for their fast sword, but unfortunately, Chu Xiu's heaven sun gazing at air was the bane of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. Ba Mountain Sword Sect's martial arts, unless they could cultivate to the peak of their ancestors' level and comprehend the sword path of time or karma, there were too many flaws. Qin Jiankong shouted furiously. His two swords combined into one, and then a vast and boundless sword aura descended. The Silken Mountain River Sword of the 8-word sword technique was executed, and it collided head-on with Chu Xiu's fist. The sword energy and wind fell, and Qin Jiankong felt a blast of air coming at him. He could not help but retreat, his hand trembling and a hint of shock in his eyes. How strong was this Lin Yi? Chu Xiu stepped forward and still threw a punch. It was a complete suppression of power without any technique. Chu Xiu's martial arts were too diverse. In most people, while it was not as rewarding to specialize in one path, when facing different warriors, Chu Xiu's martial arts allowed him to deal with all kinds of enemies and attack their weaknesses. Qin Jiankong was like this. In reality, his martial arts did not have two obvious weaknesses. The Ba Mountain Sword Sect's 8-character sword art was based on speed, but it also had both offense and defense. Qin Jiankong had mastered all the 8-character sword arts. In reality, he was a warrior with no obvious weaknesses. However, when facing Chu Xiu, he only had one weakness, and that was that he wasn't strong enough. Yes, although Qin Jiankong was a martial arts grandmaster, his foundation of power was not as strong as Chu Xiu. When they fought, Chu Xiu's explosive power was so strong that he could not withstand it, and he was the one being suppressed every time. Chu Xiu's fighting style was aimed at Qin Jiankong. The opponent's fast sword was useless against him, and Chu Xiu could easily dodge it with the heaven's sun gazing at air. Qin Jiankong's strength was not as good as his, so he could completely suppress him with power. He did not even need to use the 7 demon swords, which hurt both sides. As a result, everyone could only watch Qin Jiankong being punched back by Chu Xiu, with no room to resist. The disciples of the Ba Mountain Sword sect looked worried. Even the sect leader could not defeat the demon Lin Yi? Qin Jiankong's face was slightly red, but this time it was not because of anger but because of shame. After all, he was a martial arts grandmaster who had been famous for a long time, but now he was being suppressed by a junior. Even though this person was ranked 3rd on the Longhu roll, he still felt ashamed. What an older martial arts grandmaster like him did not want to fight with a junior like Zhong Xian and Lin Yi, who had surpassed the unity of heaven and man state but had not yet reached the martial arts grandmaster state. If he won, it would be embarrassing. But if he lost, it would be embarrassing. But at this moment, Luo Sansong and the others shouted, "My lord! The formation is a bit troublesome, we can't break it." Luo Sansong and the others were not weak, and there were more than 20 martial artists at the unity of heaven and man state present. But the mountain-protecting formation of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, the Purple Sky Lightning Sword formation, was extremely powerful. Those below the martial arts grandmaster level could not break it. Luo Sansong and the others tried to break the formation by force, and some weaker martial artists were slightly injured. This generation of the Ba Mountain Sword sect was weak, but they still had a foundation. This mountain-protecting formation had been left behind when the Ba Mountain Sword sect was at its peak. It would be strange if Luo Sansong and the others could easily break it. Qin Jiankong snorted coldly at Chu Xiu. "Lin Yi, I gave you face just now but you did not want it. Do you know how difficult it is now? Do you really think the Ba Mountain Sword sect is so easy to deal with?" Chu Xiu glanced at the formation before he glanced at Qin Jiankong, and then he suddenly said, "Sect Master Qin, have you noticed that you've actually done something stupid?" Qin Jiankong frowned and said, "What do you mean?" Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "I mean the Ba Mountain Sword sect's mountain-protecting formation is strong, but you are very weak." As he finished speaking, Chu Xiu's hand was on the obsession blade of the 7 demon blades. In the mortal world, no one could avoid greed, anger, obsession, hate, love, evil, and desire. The power of the 7 demon blades was not divided by strength. It only targeted the 7 emotions of a person. According to the former forging master of the Black Demon Tower, as long as one was human, they could not avoid these emotions. So if one blade did not have any effect, then when all 7 blades were used, it would cause a backlash from the other's emotions. But right now, Chu Xiu did not have the power to use 7 blades in a row. So when he used the 7 demon blades, he had to have a certain understanding of his target. Otherwise, this blade would not be effective, but at least less powerful than Chu Xiu imagined. The obsession blade was unsheathed. The demonic energy was not vast, but it was like a thread. It ignored all energy defenses and wrapped around Qin Jiankong's body, causing his mind to go blank. Although the 7 demon blades did not differ in strength, each of them had different uses and effects. The obsession blade did not have the power of the hatred blade that could make people go crazy, nor did it have the evil of the greed blade that could devour all power. But it could make people fall into their own world, unable to free themselves. Chapter 610. The Buddha said that all troubles were caused by stupidity. Of course, this stupidity was not the stupidity of an idiot. The stupidity of an idiot meant that they could not see themselves clearly, could not see the world clearly. With delusion in their hearts, they would trap themselves in their own world. In Chu Xiu's view, Qin Jiankong fit the description of stupidity. Ba Mountain Sword sect was not weak, but compared to the truly large sects of the world, compared to his peak, Ba Mountain Sword sect's not weak, did not seem confident enough. Qin Jiankong's stupidity was that he did not realize that Ba Mountain Sword sect was so weak, and still thought according to the thoughts of when Ba Mountain Sword sect was strong. Simply put, this Qin Jiankong was a person who did not know his limits. What kind of person knew their limits? Very simple, people like Lu Gongyuan of Azure Wave Sword sect truly knew their limits. The Azure Wave Sword sect had declined to a certain level. So for Lu Gongyuan, as long as he could preserve any bit of the Azure Wave Sword sect's power, he could put down his face, reputation and everything else. So when Xinbai was crippled by Chu Xiu, Lu Gongyuan did not express anything. His first disciple, Do Guangchen, had been killed by Chu Xiu, and a portion of his disciples had died at Chu Xiu's hands, but he did not even fart. While some people said that the Azure Wave Sword sect was too cowardly and did not have the presence of a large sect, Lu Gongyuan knew that without power, everything was empty talk. Qin Jiankong was different. He did not realize that Ba Mountain Sword sect's power was actually at the bottom of the large sects in the world of songs. He was still considering the so-called reputation of a large sect and other things that he did not need. The main culprit for Ba Mountain Sword sect being involved in this matter was this Qin Jiankong, sect leader Qin. The demon chi on the crazy blade wrapped around Qin Jiankong like a cicada pupa. The devilish chi shackled Qin Jiankong and even covered his eyes. Qin Jiankong only seemed to have recovered from his shock when the saber arrived before him, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood while the sword chi around his body shot into the sky as he struggled free from the shackles of the devilish chi. The sword in his hand and the sword formed from energy simultaneously executed the Violet Lightning Sword technique, Divine Firmament Lightning Sword technique, Silken Mountain River Sword technique, and so on and so forth. At the same time, he used the 8-character sword of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. This was the move that had made Qin Jiankong famous. However, these 8 sword strikes were a little too hasty. Before they could fully display their sword power, they had already been defeated one by Chu Xiu's crazy blade. Qin Jiankong's hands that held the swords were still trembling. In the end, he couldn't endure it any longer and his swords broke. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Chu Xiu withdrew his crazy blade and suppressed its backlash. At the same time, he condensed his spirit into an arrow and executed the soul-extinguishing arrow of the major 9 forms of soul assimilation. Furthermore, he shot 3 arrows at the same time. Actually, the might of these 3 arrows wasn't as strong as the might of Chu Xiu's soul obliteration arrow that he'd executed with his full strength, but Chu Xiu didn't intend to kill Qin Jiankong with this move. Targeted by the 3 arrows, Qin Jiankong, whose weapon had shattered, could only choose to flee. While he could still fight by turning energy into swords, after experiencing that strike just now, Qin Jiankong's courage seemed to have been completely destroyed. He did not dare to fight head-on against Chu Xiu. However, when he turned around and was about to escape, he found that the soul-destroying arrow had blocked him from 3 directions, and the only chance of survival was in the direction of the mountain-protecting formation. A powerful purple firmament lightning sword chi also erupted from it, repelling Luo Sansong and the others. A formation was not a person and would not recognize a master. Now that he was forced into the formation, he could either choose to fight against Chu Xiu on the outside, or step into the range of the formation and endure the attacks of the formation together. Qin Jiankong's blood surged and turned into 3 blood-colored sword energies to block the soul-destroying arrow. But he was also forced into the formation and endured the baptism of the purple sky lightning sword energy. Chu Xiu stepped forward, and the demonic aura around him soared into the sky. As he formed a seal with his hand, the monstrous demonic aura condensed into an evil black Buddha behind him. The Buddha held a blood-red saber and slashed down. The demonic aura surged, and at the same time, it affected Qin Jiankong's vital energy and blood. Using the 8-character sword techniques, Qin Jiankong struggled to resist Chu Xiu's demon Buddha of slaughter. But almost immediately he was forced into a disadvantageous position. The situation was extremely dangerous. Inside the Ba Mountain Sword sect, Teachertsen's expression suddenly changed when he saw this scene. He hurriedly said, "Open the formation. Let the sect leader in." The surrounding elders of the Ba Mountain Sword sect were slightly hesitant. It was not that they wanted to kill Qin Jiankong, but if the formation was opened, how could they stop Luo Sansong's powerful demonic slayers? Chu Xiu's subordinates weren't the only one with formidable strength. Teachertsen said frantically, "Idiot! If we do not open the formation and the sect leader dies outside, the Ba Mountain Sword sect will be finished. Who among you can defeat a martial grandmaster? Who has the confidence to support the Ba Mountain Sword sect?" Right now, the Ba Mountain Sword sect was actually very weak. There was no successor in the next generation, and they could not even find a worthy young disciple. But if the young disciples were gone, they could be slowly discovered and nurtured. But if Qin Jiankong, a martial grandmaster, died and the Ba Mountain Sword sect did not have a martial grandmaster, it would not take long for them to be kicked out of the 7 sects and 8 schools. Teachertsen said hatefully, "I told you long ago you cannot protect the Xiang family, you cannot protect the Xiang family. Look at this. You are inviting trouble to yourself." Even Peng Chong did not speak. While he had a good relationship with the Xiang family, and the leader of the Xiang family was his sworn brother. He was an elder of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. If something happened to the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, it would be an unimaginable loss for him. The elders of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect looked at each other, and could only open the formation. Qin Jiankong, who had been suppressed by Chu Xiu, quickly retreated to the back. But at the same time, because of the opening of the formation, Luo Sansong and the others charged into the Ba Mountain Sword Sect crowd. Previously, Luo Sansong and the others had thought that this would be another hard battle, and that the Ba Mountain Sword Sect would stop them. Unexpectedly, the Ba Mountain Sword Sect retreated of their own accord, and gave way to the Xiang family hiding behind them. In the face of great danger, everyone fled. Husband and wife were like this, much less between the Ba Mountain Sword Sect and the Xiang family. The patriarch of the Xiang family still had some backbone. Seeing that he and the others had fallen into a desperate situation, he did not choose to retreat. Instead, he erupted all of his qi, blood and qi, desperately trying to drag a few people down with him. But the leader of the Xiang family was a bit weak, and was cut in two by Luo Sansong with a few blows. Even the Xiang family was slaughtered. At this time, Qin Jiankong and the other Ba Mountain Sword Sect warriors all had humiliated expressions. To be slaughtered on their own land by others, and by their in-laws and allies at that, was an insult. But at this time, Qin Jiankong did not dare to say anything more. The other Ba Mountain Sword Sect warriors were also silent. They had seen Lin Ye's strength. In a dozen moves he had defeated their sect leader, Qin Jiankong. The other hidden demon warriors were strong enough. If they really fought, and the Ba Mountain Sword Sect did not have a formation to protect them, they might be destroyed. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes at Qin Jiankong, his gaze filled with malice. Should Qin Jiankong kill? Or should he not? Should he destroy the Ba Mountain Sword Sect? Or should he not destroy it? This was a problem. Today he had seriously injured Qin Jiankong, and had slaughtered in the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. This meant that he had formed a feud with the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. So it should not be a problem to finish them all off at once? What he feared was that the Ba Mountain Sword Sect still had some hidden trump cards. After all, a large sect like the Ba Mountain Sword Sect definitely had some hidden treasures. Qin Jiankong seemed to feel Chu Xiu's malicious gaze. He could not help but tremble. At this time, a shout came from the foot of the mountain. Demon, stop. Boundless Buddhist Gang Qi erupted and a figure wrapped in golden Gang Qi climbed to the top of Ba Mountain. Su Xing's face darkened when he saw that most of the Xiang family members had been slaughtered. He had come a step too late again. In reality, if Su Xing had hurried on his own, he could have caught up to Chu Xiu and come to the Ba Mountain Sword Sect ahead of time. But he had brought a few burdens with him. He had hurried with those people, so he had been slowed down. At the foot of the mountain, Su Xing heard other passing warriors say that a large group of demonic cultivators had already ascended the mountain. Su Xing knew this was not good. He had hurried, but in the end he was still a step too late. By the time he reached the top of the mountain, everyone had been killed. Chu Xiu glanced at the shadow and casually greeted him. Master Xu Xing, I trust you have been well since we last met. As he spoke, Chu Xiu stood with his hands behind his back and put on an indifferent posture. However, even though Chu Xiu looked very calm on the surface, he was actually a little panicked. The fact that Su Xing would appear here was something that he had not expected. Because according to normal logic, Chu Xiu had already killed everyone in Red Maple Valley. Who would be bored enough to come find him for revenge? So from the start, Chu Xiu had planned to retreat after killing everyone. But this time the Great Light Temple had sent Su Xing, who had an old grudge against him. There was clearly no point, but he still followed him to the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. If he had been at his peak, Chu Xiu would not have feared Su Xing. He had been able to injure Su Xing once, so he was confident he could injure Su Xing a second time. But that time, Chu Xiu had the 7-demon blade. It could be said that the 7-demon blade was very useful to Chu Xiu as a trump card. But just now, when Chu Xiu had fought Qin Jiankong, he had used the 7-demon blade. If he used the 7-demon blade again, Chu Xiu would not be able to suppress the backlash of the 7-demon blade. If he'd known earlier, Chu Xiu wouldn't have used a lethal weapon like the 7-fiend saber. In any case, Qin Jiankong's strength was extremely weak, and Chu Xiu would still be able to deal with him by expending some effort. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.